Blank check with Griffin and David. Blank check with Griffin and David. Don't know what to say or to expect. All you need to know is that the name of the show is Blank Check.
On the first day of Christmas, my true love sent to me a podcast in a pod tree. On the second day of Christmas, my true love sent to me 2 podcast doves and a podcast in a pod tree.
I did this to myself. I did.
On the third day of Christmas, my true love sent to me 3 podcasts, 2 podcast doves, and a podcast in a pod tree.
This song doesn't have anything to do with A Christmas Carol, right? Just checking. I don't actually.
On the fourth day of Christmas,
it's a carol,
my
David.
true love
Christmas
sent to
Carol.
me.
It is
It's
a carol.
Christmas
4
Carol.
podcasts, 3 podcasts, 2 podcast doves,
Wait.
and a podcast in a pod tree.
I'm sorry, you turned calling birds into podcasts? That's it?
On
There's
the
so much
fifth
more you could do
day
in
of
calling
Christmas,
birds.
my true love sent to me 5 podcasts.
Golden podcasts.
4 podcasts, 3 podcasts, 2 podcast doves, and a podcast in a pod tree.
This is why you guys are in the lead for the Peabody this year, right? Like this is the reason.
Yeah,
this
the
is our
OB is
submission.
no longer in our sights. We want the Peabody.
On the 6th day of Christmas, my true love sent to me 6 pods a casting, 5 podcasts,
Oh boy.
4 podcasts.
This is
3
making me
podcasts,
like the movie
2
more.
podcast doves,
You know,
and
possible.
a podcast in a pod tree.
Podcasts do win Peabody Awards. I am
do.
looking at they have a whole category for it.
You should submit to the Peabodys and
we
submit this
should.
episode. Yeah.
On the
all right, we're
7th
gonna do
day
it.
of Christmas, my
Making
true
a note
love
right now.
sent to me
Submit to Peabody.
7 pods a casting, 6 pods a casting, 5 podcasts, 4 podcasts,
3
When do we cut his mic like
podcasts, 2
from
2
style?
podcast doves,
doves,
and
and
a
a
podcast in a pod tree.
Wow, the harmony,
right.
the harmony's there.
Okay.
So we got
All
to
right.
7. We got to Swans a Swimming, which I believe you put as Pods a Casting. Is that right?
Yeah.
Correct. And no, we got to 8. Excuse me.
Oh,
we
sorry.
got to 8.
And so Maids a Milking, which you put as Pods a Casting. Am I right?
No, actually, David, I'm sorry. That was a visit from the Ghost of Bits future. I hadn't gone to 8 yet. Here it is. On the 8th day of Christmas, my true love sent to me 8 pods a casting, 7 pods a casting, 6 pods a casting, 5 podcasts. 4 podcasts,
3 podcasts, 2 podcast doves, and a podcast in a pod tree.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Ho 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 Merry Blank Check.
Good. Good.
This is our.
Easily appropriate.
I was-
Very good.
I was gonna say this is our last episode before Christmas, but it isn't. It's 2 weeks before Christmas, right?
It's December 13th. So, but
Yeah.
you know, it's the season. 'Tis
Right.
the season, as they say.
Tis the season to be casting. Yeah.
I mean, you gotta get flight in before Christmas. Like that's
Right.
important.
Flight, right. Flight will be our actual Christmas episode.
we're landing the flight right before Christmas. Our plan, for the time being, tentatively, is to roll it. I should mention that. We're gonna
See,
roll
I've never
it.
seen Flight. Is that a reference to Flight?
Yeah, I feel like we're going to roll it for a brief period of time was up there with duly appointed federal marshals, and we're going to get over on all these guys. It's got to be the best we ever did. Am I wrong,
Great-
Emily? Like, we're going to roll
trailer
it was a
line.
pretty major trailer line for a little bit there.
Oh yeah, if you saw any movie in like
Right.
2012, you heard we're gonna roll it. Yeah.
But the answer is David is mortified of planes, and he probably covered his eyes every time the trailer came up.
Yeah, I mean, I know that the plane is upside down or something.
We're gonna roll it. We're gonna roll it.
Right. And I know Goodman is involved, and then they're maybe in Congress or something. There's some sort of hearing at some point. That's all I really know.
Look, you're gonna see the movie very soon. It's the next episode we're recording, obviously. And I don't want to spoil anything for you, but I just want to say the movie might finally answer whether or not John Goodman's character has sympathy for the devil. I'm trying to be as oblique here as possible, but the movie might provide an answer as to whether, and it might be pretty clear.
Yes, and I'll go in with that now. I have no idea what you're talking about, but that sounds great.
When I was here to talk about Alice in Wonderland, we talked about planes a lot, and flight is part of the planes expanded universe. So
yes,
right. We talked about the Pixar, well, not Pixar, but the Pixar
Disney tunes,
right? Yeah, Disney, the Disney
planes,
right?
Planes, fire. It's planes, then planes, fire and rescue, and then planes. We're gonna roll it, aka flight. It was retitled Flight in America. In Europe, it was released as Planes: We're gonna roll it.
We're gonna roll it. They should bring back planes and put Sully in it. Look, we can't talk about planes again. Wait a second. If we already did a planes bit, we gotta flex our muscles. We gotta do something new here.
If they told me that Sully played a plane in Planes 3, I would see it.
You go in.
Not only that, I'd see it in theaters during COVID. I would go to a public screening during COVID if they were like, surprise, third plane movie, and Sully has one scene.
I just brought up airplanes so I could open the door just a crack and dangle a little sign that said Sully through the door and see if you took the bait, and you performed marvelously. Thank you, boys.
Yeah, we're pretty easy marks, I would say.
Yeah. By this point, people will have heard our Castaway episode where Nia DaCosta in real time tries to interrogate us on whether or not the Sully thing is a bit, the way our Reddit has been trying to do for the last 5 years.
That movie is very good. It is not a bit.
It's not a bit.
I swear to God, it's a great movie. She also goes in on, Clint Eastwood's whole, concrete and fluorescent lighting, 2010s oeuvre, but whatever.
Yeah, I mean,
Sully
absolutely.
rules.
Not wrong. Sully rules. But this is a holiday episode of Blank Check, a podcast about filmographies, directors who have massive success early on in their career and are given a series of blank checks to make whatever crazy passion projects they want. And sometimes those checks clear, and sometimes, ho, 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 they bounce, baby. This is a mini-series on the films of Robert Zemeckis, the notorious Bobby Z, and today we're talking about a Christmas movie, A Christmas Carol, the movie that forced him into early retirement as a mocap filmmaker.
Yeah. Did he admit that? Did he say like, okay, I took it as far as it could go? Or what did he say, like, they just cost too much money and they stopped letting me do it?
David, we're going to get into it because I think there's an element here that you're forgetting, but we will unpack it. Our guest today, by popular demand, and I should make it clear, she is always a much demanded guest for return appearances by our listeners. But in this case, as demanded by herself to come on to speak about this movie, we, in an early episode of this miniseries, said, what the fuck are we going to do for that episode? We're going to be so burnt out on these mocap things by that point. Who wants to talk about that? And zing, right in the inbox, an email that took many months for me to actually respond to.
Yes. Mm-hmm. I thought I had offended someone. No. I was like, oh, well... No. It won't happen, but, No,
here's what's happened. I've gotten to a point where I can no longer distinguish between things I've done and things I've thought about doing.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Fair. True for all of us.
I lie in bed every night and I go, have I not brushed my teeth or have I done it 3 times in the last 10 minutes? And I don't know. And sometimes I get up and do it a 4th time. And sometimes I don't do it at all. Emily Vanderwerff, the great, from Vox, from the National Futterwhacking Championships of 2018. I
won.
That's when you won.
Yeah,
I think that was your year, though, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you so much. It's so good to be here. Go ahead.
And self-proclaimed Christmas fanatic. That's the key detail I want to throw out here as I open up a can of Christmas Budweiser. It's a late night
Wow,
record.
a Christmas Bud.
It's a boring movie. I felt like it was time to drink some Christmas Bud on mic.
I got a Christmas green tea right here, my friend.
Okay. I got a Christmas Bud. But Emily, you're a big Christmas fan and you're a big Christmas Carol fan, correct?
Yes. I feel as though me appearing on a Christmas edition of Blank Check is like a prophecy somewhere. Like somewhere in like a temple somewhere, there's like a man who's like saying, oh, he saw this drop into his Spotify feed and he says, oh, prepare the heralds, because like he's just fucking ready for it. But yeah, I love this story. I love Christmas, as David can attest, going back many years. So yeah, I'm so happy to be here and so happy to be talking about one of the ugliest movies ever made.
Emily, it's truly ugly.
This is the headline for me, because we've watched three of these uglies in a row.
I'm going to agree with what you're about to say. I think I know what you're going to say, and I agree.
I don't know if I'm going to say what you think I'm about to say. My point is, we've been bumping uglies 3 weeks in a row, right?
We have
straight uglies in this run. You thought I was about to say this is the best looking of the three?
No.
Okay, because Beowulf's the best looking of the three, right?
I thought you were about to say this is the worst looking of the three, and I agree, to my astonishment.
I think Polar Express is the worst looking of the three, but it is astonishing that this movie is so boring that quality overrules how ugly looking it is. Like, we kind of like Beowulf, but of course you have to admit this thing looks like garbage. We hate Polar Express, and we're like, and of course it has to be admitted, a huge part of that is that it looks like garbage. And this, I could talk for 2 hours about how boring it is before I really start unpacking how ugly it looks.
Yeah, I think that at least Polar Express is a train. I think a train looks better in this because it's metal. I think this is a world geared towards metal. You know, I think all of Zemeckis' mocap movies should have been about metal people and things. Yeah. And it's just when you bring skin into the game, you're in trouble. And that's why I will pick Polar Express over A Christmas Carol, both as a movie and as a thing to look at. Anyway.
I'll say this too. I mean, obviously, Polar Express is, working with earlier stages of technology. It's at a disadvantage in that way. But from a design standpoint, Polar Express is 1,000% more aesthetically pleasing than this movie. And Polar Express is not an aesthetically pleasing movie.
This is true. Emily, I've known you for 20 years. I don't know if you've done the math in your head, but I've basically known you for 20 years.
This is true, yes. Mm-hmm.
Do you remember what the Oscar season was when the two of you
I would say
met on the message boards?
Probably the Return of the King season.
Yeah,
right?
it was Return of the King. It was Return of the King.
Okay.
Yeah.
I came in and made a big splash with my winged migration signature and my message.
Yes, you were all in on winged migration. That's right.
It said FYC the Goose, Best Supporting Actor.
Yes,
was
I remember
trying
that.
to make an impression, and
It
I was like, David, you're so cool, and you're like, and I was like, oh, he's just some 15-year-old kid from.
That's who I was, a cool 15-year-old on an Oscar message board.
But Emily, this is also bore out that you have discovered a lot of our friends, but people who have become incredible writers at different outlets across the land. You had a real eye for talent, recognizing young people on message boards who had the passion and the skill set and like giving them their first jobs. Frankie falls into that category as well. Pilot, right? Yeah.
Sonia Saraya,
Sonia.
Emily Yoshida, these are people who they had like Tumblrs, and I just was like, this is a good Tumblr. And at the time, nobody was hiring women for these jobs. And so the AV Club just had a whole bunch of women, and it turned out I was a woman, and then we had David. So that was great.
And I now work at the Atlantic Culture section, which is 8 women and me and Spencer. Shout out Spencer.
But also, I mean, if you hadn't extended opportunities to so many people, this podcast would not exist.
Sure, that's true.
I wouldn't have met David.
No,
we wouldn't have had any guests. Who would our guest pool have been?
This is true.
Have you been on Oscar Watch lately? I know it has a new name now. It's had like many names.
I haven't in a long time.
Neither have I until just. And I'm sorry to start on this really arcane ship, but whatever. It's the Christmas Carol episode.
We have to.
I watched the film Hillbilly Elegy. I was provided.
I've seen it too. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Which is not a good movie, and by this point it's come out, and I imagine it's been mostly savaged by critics and whatever. It's out there. And I didn't review it, but I did foolishly, I will say, just sort of out of boredom, put it at like the bottom of my 2020 list on Letterboxd, just as like a joke, or maybe not like bottom, but like in right at the bottom, right? Mm-hmm. Does that make you guys know what I'm talking about?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And Andy Scott, shout out to Andy Scott, who Emily knows, my old roommate, and another Oscar watcher, emailed me and was like, "You have like lit a torch on the message on the Oscar Watch, whatever it's Awards Daily, whatever it's called now, and it has exploded. Like people are like, David Sims put it at the bottom. This thing's going to be a catastrophe." And apparently, there's Amy Adams stands, and they're all freaking out. So that's the update I got from the message boards.
But how long ago was that? I feel like the word has been out with this thing being toxic for a little while now.
I mean, whenever I saw it, like when would that have been? Let's see. Now I can look at my diary. Some mid-November, right? It wasn't like
4 years
crazy
ago.
long ago.
Yeah.
It's a bad movie. You know what? It was all the way back in October.
Okay.
They gave it to me really early.
It's worse than A Christmas Carol, Hillbilly Elegy.
It's worse than A Christmas Carol. Yeah. There's no question. It's working off way worse material, to be fair. I mean, A Christmas Carol, you're working off Dickens.
Huh. Well, wait a second. That's an interesting question. Let's dig into this. Which do we think is a better original text? Charles Dickens' classic Christmas tale. A story that has endured for centuries, has lost zero potency. There's a reason we keep on returning to it.
Basically helped invent the ghost story. Or J.D. Vance's cheap hackery, the Hillbilly Elegy.
It's tight. It's tight. I don't want to put my foot down for either and then have this age poorly.
When do you think Zemeckis is going to do the mocap Hillbilly Elegy? Because this is a story that's going to be told over and over and over again, I think.
Yes,
absolutely. He needs to make it metal, and he needs to make every character a Terminator, and then it'll work. There's a Terminator monologue.
Sounds good.
In which Glenn Close refers to good, bad, and neutral Terminators. And there's no such thing as neutral Terminators. I don't know what she's talking about. They're very sort of good, bad. They really are kind of an on-off switch kind of thing.
Excuse me. There's good, bad, and then there's Terminator 3 Rise of the Machines, where Arnold's Terminator character has a slight malfunction, and sometimes he turns bad briefly.
Well, right, but he's not really neutral. It's not like he's like, I am a centrist.
No, neutral fundamentally doesn't exist.
I guess like the real Arnold Schwarzenegger is something of a neutral at this point, but let's not get into.
Yeah.
The point I wanted to make is,
please,
Emily, I have known you 20 odd years, and I've always known you as someone who loves Christmas. That's I like from the beginning. It's been a big part of your brand, a love of Christmas.
Yeah.
We once cooked up a Santa Claus show together. Which
like a Santa Claus TV show?
Yes.
Yep.
Emily asked me to pitch, like, was it a sitcom or it was a
sitcom?
A weekly sitcom about Santa Claus.
I can remember the exact premise that you came up with because it was very good.
Tell me, because you'll probably do it better than I did.
This was at the height of My Name is Earl. So David pointed to My Name is Earl and said, we need a show like that where there's like a concrete goal. So it was about Santa on the other 364 days of the year. It was 364 episodes. Each one was a new day in a year of Santa between Christmas Eves. And the show was called, this is long before Keeping Up with the Kardashians, it was called Keeping Up with the Clauses.
Wow.
I remember that.
Yeah. So David invented Keeping Up with the Kardashians.
The only other thing I remember is that Santa has a new wife because Santa is immortal, but I decided that his wives are not, that he's like Javier Bardem and Mother. Like they die and then he just gets a new one, right?
Yes, this is true.
And so I was because I thought it'd be funny, like a sitcom. It's like Santa would be like a fat guy with a beard, and he would have this like improbably attractive, 28-year-old wife played by like a young ingenue who's now stuck on this sitcom. But like he'd still love her, it would be tender. It's just that you would have anyway. I thought that was funny.
It's funny that was a trend for a little bit. Here's the premise of our show. It's
according
finite.
to Jim,
There's a hard end.
Yes.
No, not that thing.
Yeah,
of course,
you're talking about My Name Is Earl, right?
David, that premise is evergreen. We'll never get tired of that premise. But
Of
the
hearing
My
how
Name Is
things
Earl
are
thing.
according to Jim.
Right. The show is literally like crossing items off a list. There's a built-in ending for it. And the ending is only a scant 180 episodes away. Like those premises where it was like, we have to end at this point. And that point is 9 seasons.
I figured out, I'm actually going to figure it out again, how long Keeping Up with the Clauses would run. And it's 16 and a half seasons. So that's like how long you need to do Keeping Up with the Clauses.
That thing will sell. That thing will be in syndication forever. You'll make millions. That's me talking to ABC in 2005 or whatever.
Is there a talking reindeer?
Oh, yeah. That's a great idea. Yes, there has to be a talking reindeer.
Bobcat Goldthwait.
Yeah, as Rudolph or as Prancer, I don't know.
I almost made David do a spit take. I was so close. He caught it. He swallowed really fast.
Remember how My Name Is Earl was a huge hit? And like The Office was like eating The Office for breakfast on that like Thursday block, and then it kind of, I guess people just kind of got sick of it. I don't know what happened to
There's this super weird phenomenon of single camera sitcoms from the late 2000s, early 2010s, where they debut huge. They're big for 13 episodes, and then people just inexplicably stop watching them. New Girl was another example.
I was going to say, New Girl's like the
New
last
Girl.
one of those, where when it started, I was like, oh, this is like the biggest comedy on television. This is the new Friends. And by the end of season 1, I was like, I guess it's now just become a niche thing.
But tell me how many seasons New Girl ran for.
New Girl ran for 7. Yeah.
7.
Yeah.
My Name Is Earl only got 4 and apparently ended on a cliffhanger that was never resolved.
Still working on that list.
They promised Greg Garcia that he was going to be able to finish the story the way he wanted, and then he was not allowed to finish the story the way he wanted. So,
what is Greg Garcia doing now? Because he did Raising Hope, which I loved. I was a big fan of that.
That was a good show.
He did Raising Hope.
Yeah.
He did the guest book on TBS,
Right.
which is a very weird show.
I do not know what that is, but that's cool.
It's a comedy anthology series about the people who sign a guest book in a vacation property, and each season is a new vacation property.
Here I am sitting on a fucking mountain of gold with my Santa Claus sitcom, and people are like, I don't know, let's do a show about guest books. Like they're just like looking around the room at the ski lodge, and they're like, could we do like a table sitcom? No, that's ridiculous. Guest books? We'll do guest books.
I forgot Greg Garcia also did The Millers, the CBS sitcom that ran for 34 episodes. Will Arnett, Margot Martindale, Beau Bridges, J.B. Smoove, Gemma Mays, Nelson Franklin, Sean Hayes.
Yep. It was
it's a big cast.
It was supposed to be the next big thing, and it just didn't happen. Greg Garcia. Greg Garcia is like somebody who always has a show that seems like it's going to be huge for a little bit.
He's
and then
a
it
pro,
just just completely He did Yes Dear, I think.
Yes, he did. That was his thing, and then
he came from Yes Dear. Yes,
but like My Name Is Earl was like, look, I know I created Yes Dear, but this is my actual sensibility. I remember there was such a press tour of him being like, but that's not the kind of show I grew up watching. Right. This is my actual interest, and then made himself sort of like the more quirky guy. I also feel like in my 10 years of doing pilot season or whatever, almost every season there's a big Greg Garcia pilot at CBS that's like the cool one that then doesn't get picked up. And several times he has the show that's really hyped up, everyone's fighting to get cast in, it doesn't go, and then they bring it back the next season and try it again, and then it still doesn't go.
Yeah, and the premise is always like, what if a middle schooler was a superhero but also a nurse? And you're just like,
Emily,
what?
I wanted to be in that one so badly. Unsurprisingly. Super Clyde? Oh, I wanted to be in that one.
I have two more things to say about Greg Garcia, and then we can talk about A Christmas Carol. One,
or we cannot.
Apparently, or whatever you guys want to talk about. Apparently, Greg Garcia in 2008, Alec Baldwin accused him of being a Scientologist. I guess because Jason Lee is one. Like, I don't think he had anything more. And Greg Garcia was like, I'm not a Scientologist. Like, he had to issue a statement. He was like, I'm like a Catholic. Like, wow. Two, he did the book to the musical Escape to Margaritaville, which was the Jimmy Buffett jukebox musical that I don't think ever made it. No, I guess it did.
No, it did make it to Broadway.
Briefly.
It ran on Broadway.
Briefly.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They, I believe they extended the run of Escape to Margaritaville in Los Angeles, which rarely happens here because, not a huge theater town, but a big Escape to Margaritaville town.
Big Parrot Head town.
Yeah.
That I almost wonder if it was like built into the budget of Escape from Margaritaville that opening on Broadway was a loss leader just to get the prestige of it played on Broadway. Because it's like you have to imagine the ultimate life of that show is on cruise ships. You know?
Yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
David?
Yes.
I don't know about you, but in my eyes, it's beginning to feel a lot like Stamp Miss.
Okay. Stamp Miss. That's true.
It's beginning to feel a lot like Stamp Miss because this year the holiday seasons are all going to be about the mail. Am I right?
Yes.
Am I right?
You're right. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. You're totally right. The thing is, people are mailing stuff a lot because it's the holiday season. The post office is busy. You want to get your presents out to everyone safely and happily.
You don't want to deliver those presents in hand, in person. That's not what we should be doing.
No.
You want to stay home. You want to just print out a little label. Let the postal carrier pick it up from you and send it off to your loved one.
Exactly. With Stamps.com, anything you can do at the post office, you can just do with a few clicks. Plus, Stamps.com saves you money with deep discounts you can't even get at the post office.
We're talking deep discounts.
They've, and they bring in the services of the U.S. Postal Service and UPS right to your computer. It's a must-have for any business. So maybe you're sending out invoices. Maybe you're an online seller who's fulfilling orders in this record-setting holiday season. Maybe you're a giant warehouse sending out thousands of packages a day. Stamps can handle it all with ease. Yep.
Yeah. Maybe you're a member of the Mug of the Month Club. Whatever floats your boat. All you have to do is use your computer to print official U.S. postage 24/7 for any letter, any package, any class of mail, anywhere you want to send. And once your mail's ready, you just schedule a pickup or drop it off. It's that simple, David.
And look, you're going to get 5 cents off every first class stamp. You're going to get 40% off priority mail. You're going to get up to 62% off UPS shipping rates. And it's a fraction of the cost of those expensive postage meters. It's a no-brainer, saves you time and money. It's no wonder that 900,000 small businesses already use Stamps.com. Now,
it's not a wonder. Don't accuse them of being a Jacob Tremblay. They're no wonder.
They're no wonder. Exactly. Don't spend a minute of your holiday season at the post office this year. Sign up for Stamps.com instead. There's no risk because with our promo code CHECK, you get a special offer that includes a 4-week trial plus free postage and a digital scale. There's no long-term commitments or contracts. You just go to Stamps.com, click on the microphone at the top of the homepage and type in CHECK. Stamps.com, enter CHECK. Stamps.com, never go to the post office again.
And in the name of equality, I should say I want to wish all of our listeners a happy Stamp Macabre as well.
Right.
Happy Stamp Macabre.
Of course.
Here's a line of questioning I want to get into, Emily. Because we started digging into this a little bit on our Polar Express episode, where The Sims grew up, sans Christmas, largely.
Mm-hmm.
And in our Contact episode, we talked about like our relationships to faith and religion a lot. And most of us grew up pretty a-religious. I grew up with a sort of very perfunctory Judaism. My parents being like, I guess we should teach our children this stuff. But they had completely abandoned that pretty much by the time my sister was around. Right. But you had a very religious upbringing. And you've written a lot about your relationship to that as time has gone on and how it's changed and morphed and all of that. And so I want to know sort of where Christmas fits into all of that, how much value Christmas has for you is tied to the religious traditions of it and how much of it is tied to what I still find very effective about Christmas, which is essentially just like movie Christmas. Like I fucking love movie Christmas and lights in New York and food with weird wrappings and things like that.
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting because I grew up doing kind of the secular Christmas, but mostly very religious Christmas. When I was 3, my mom took me aside and said, there is no Santa Claus, but also your dad is Santa Claus. And I was like, oh, cool. That's awesome. Good for him.
Married Santa Claus? Mom, that rules.
Which she was saying, because like when you get a gift from Santa, that's actually from your dad. But I was 3, so I didn't entirely understand that. But yeah, I grew up with super religious. I remember very specifically there was a Christmas service at my church that ended with the pastor being like, and we have this recording of hell that I'm going to play for you now. Wow. And because it was
saying like we got a microphone in and this is a famed story in evangelical Christian circles that a bunch of Soviet scientists dug a hole to the center of the earth. I'm aware of this story.
Dropped a microphone down.
I didn't know it was evangelically embraced as well.
Yeah.
It's sort of like a weird urban legend.
It's
oh my God, this is hardcore.
So they genuinely presented it as like a scientific breakthrough. We finally have captured audio of hell.
We have audio of hell, and it's on the internet if you want to go look for it. It sounds like a mall food court slowed way down. Like it's
Emily, I'm just gonna stop you for a second. If Ben's looking particularly despondent, it's because he had been working on trying to create the first Ditch podcast. He thought he was going to be the first person to stick a microphone in a dirt hole and just record it for 2 hours.
I'm so upset. Damn
this
it.
This is a major hit for him.
I will say that the hole that they actually dug, which was a 40,000 foot hole, is called the Cola Super Deep Borehole, which is a pretty good name.
Yeah.
And it was like an experiment of like, what happens if we just dig really far?
Well,
I'm just amused.
You give people fodder for stories about having recordings of hell. So we would go to church and it would be like, and they're teaching children about Santa Claus, and like that would be presented as like we were losing Jesus from the center of the season or whatever. Right.
Yeah.
And then, I went off to college and I eventually moved to California, and I realized I really started to miss winter. Like I missed snow. I missed really what I missed was New York Christmas, which I had not experienced to that point, but like now
Speaking my language, Emily.
Yeah, now have been several times. And I'm like, oh, this is like the ideal city for Christmas. Los Angeles is kind of depressing because they do this thing at the Grove, which is our big shopping mall. That's like, they just send foam into the air and it's supposed to be snow. And I took my wife to that and she was just despondent the whole way back because it's so disturbing and gross. But then the first year we were in California, somebody on Christmas Eve had gone up to the mountains and gotten a giant pile of snow and just put it in the parking lot of our apartment complex. And that felt like Christmas to me. So I started to get more into secular, Christmas music, Christmas bullshit, basically, and watching every Christmas movie, every Christmas special I could find. And that sort of became a weird obsession. So that's why I'm here.
But I'm very much all in on all of that stuff. And I grew up with Christmas being devoid of any religious meaning. But I also grew up in New York where Christmas feels very romantic. Mm-hmm. So just like Christmas flavored things and Christmas albums and Christmas movies and specials, I get very caught up in it. I will feel very depressed going through this Christmas without there being like the Christmassy vibe in the same sort of way. Aside from the fact I'm probably not going to celebrate anything with my family, it's also just like things like the outdoor sort of like market at Union Square,
Rockefeller Center,
the Rockefeller Center,
sticky bandits, wet bandits, stuff like this.
Have you seen this Rockefeller Center tree?
It's bad.
I mean,
the little sad
if this
boy,
isn't a metaphor for 2020, I mean, if 2020 was a tree.
Yeah.
It'd be like really tall,
in it, though.
But have a
Wait, is the tree wearing a face mask? Is that what they did?
No, it just looks really shitty.
It's just kind of a weird, shitty tree. I don't really get it because I think there's like a whole process where they there's people grow big trees.
They showed the picture of it when they cut it down, and it's literally the how it started, how it's going meme applied to 2020.
Yeah.
Like, because it was beautiful when they cut it down, and now it's just like all crap. So
I mean, I just looked at the photo and my immediate thought was, oh, the tree guy couldn't get out of bed either, huh? Dude, I get it. Major feeling.
Yeah.
Big mood.
The first time I was ever on this show was because it was Christmas 2016, and I went to New York specifically because I was like, well, there may never be another Christmas, so I'd better go to New York and have one more Christmas there. And we made it, sort of.
We made it. Wow, we'll talk about full circle. So you love Christmas media. I do as well. I feel like I'm such a sap for Christmas that even stuff I'm cynical about usually activates me in some way. Mm-hmm. And I honestly feel like Polar Express and A Christmas Carol, Disney's A Christmas Carol, might be two of the only Christmas movies I've ever seen that stir no feelings of Christmas cheer in me.
I'll even say this. I agree with that. I ended up I made this gigantic Christmas playlist on Spotify that anyone could contribute to. And somebody put Silvestri's Christmas Carol score on there. And I just heard it sans the movie and was like, this is great. This is great Christmas music. And in the movie, it just gets buried by whatever the hell is going on.
Makes zero impression.
Bullshit. I know. It's a good score. It's a totally, as you say, the fine work on its own.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. This is just I watched a few years ago, like every version of Christmas Carol I could get my hands on. And this is by far one of the worst, which is this story is really hard to screw up. Like, the reason that it's boring is because the underlying story is always pretty good. But yeah.
Do you have a go-to pick for what you think the best adaptation is, or the couple at the top?
Oh, Griffin, do I?
I'm fishing for an answer here, and I'm hoping I learn.
My favorite is this actually has a Zemeckis connection. It's the 1971 animated version by Richard Williams, who did the animation for Who Framed Roger Rabbit. It is done in the style of the woodcut engravings from Dickens' original book. It's gorgeous. It's on YouTube, even in like 360p or whatever it is. It's just gorgeous to look at and beautiful. He won an Oscar for it. I love the Alistair Sim version. I like Muppet Christmas Carol a lot. You know, there's some really good ones, but my favorite by far, the one I watch every year, is that 1971 version.
That one is really good. Alistair Sim also plays Scrooge in it. Like,
yes,
it's like
he does.
He's doing he's doing your classic Scrooge. He is he's sort of he is Scrooge, right? Like, that's that he played Scrooge a bunch and yada yada yada. Muppet Christmas Carol, definitely my first experience of Christmas Carol, I would imagine.
My first was Mickey's, and I think Mickey's has got a little.
I saw Mickey. Yes, mine was also Mickey's. I definitely saw that when I was. Yes, that's right.
That Mickey one was big. Am I mistaken in thinking that it was released in theaters alongside one of the re-releases of a Disney classic, and then it became just like a blockbuster VHS TV
let's find out.
I saw it. I did my very first time going to the movies. I saw Mickey's Christmas Carol with The Rescuers.
There we go.
In theaters.
Yes, it was put with The Rescuers, and then just became a TV.
Right.
Yeah.
But that one's really good too. I mean, it speaks to just the potency of this story that, like, not only are most adaptations of it at least enjoyable, but also the inevitable like TV episode parodies of it are usually pretty good. It is pretty hard to fuck up this format.
Yeah.
We never get tired of it. And I don't know, I feel like there was something slightly exciting about the announcement of this movie just because it felt like, that might be in Zemeckis' wheelhouse. Mm-hmm. And aside from the mocap, he doesn't have any big story hook. He's not trying to put it in a contemporary setting. Yeah. Mm-hmm. He's not trying to radicalize it in any way. Like, his argument is using this technology to try to make the most faithful adaptation of the book in a way the technology could not allow up until this point.
Which, in a way, he succeeded at because the book does have that sequence rarely committed to film where Scrooge is chased by a hearse being driven by the Ghost of Christmas Future and then has to, escape it and turns into a tiny man and goes into a tube and a whole bunch of stuff happens. It's in the book. Nobody's ever put it on film. Zemeckis
Pretty sure
did
there's
it.
a shit joke in there at one point where he talks about Christmas pudding, which is cool.
The book has, people don't realize this, the book has 45 pages of tiny Scrooge hanging onto an empty bottle, skidding down the streets and rooftops.
It does bring in things that are from the book that I guess like the thing where he puts out the Christmas past guy as a candle. Mm-hmm. That is in the book.
Yeah.
But I don't know that you're reading the book and you're like, God, that's so great. We gotta include. You know what I mean? Like that's just a weird image. And Zemeckis is like, yeah, that'll be a set piece. That's gonna be a whole set piece. We're gonna blow that out.
There's stuff that's in the book that he could have put in the movie that would have padded things out in an interesting way. Like the Scrooge and the Ghost of Christmas Present go on a journey where they visit miners and sailors and people who are celebrating Christmas out in the wilds of Britain. And that is a nice little sequence in the Richard Williams one. And it's just, it could have been good here too. So
it's very odd that this film is completely lacking in humor. It is perhaps the single most humorless adaptation I have ever seen of this story. And B, is also weirdly lacking in feeling.
Yeah. Yeah.
It has not a lot of emotion. And this is about a person's emotional transformation. That's what A Christmas Carol is about. So that's a problem. And
he's a bastard. That reads...
Yeah, you get that he's not very nice at the beginning where he says children should go to jail.
Sure, but I also...
For the crime of poverty.
I feel like you got some fundamental issues if I'm watching A Christmas Carol and when Tiny Tim shows up for the fourth time, I go, oh, right, Tiny Tim. Yeah. Right. Tiny Tim's in the movie. Okay.
The other, I would say, the issue Griffin is referring to is that this film stars Jim Carrey, famously funny man, and is light on jokes, light on humor.
But also light on character comedy. It feels like he is pointedly trying to avoid finding any comedic angle to the 4 characters he plays.
Which is remarkable because Scrooge is already a comedic caricature of a rich man. And then the ghosts you can go any direction with them. And the idea of having him play these ghosts is actually pretty smart and the kind of thing mocap was made to do, but they don't do anything with it.
It's one of the strongest arguments for mocap is that kind of it's like a digital kind of Man of 1,000 Faces thing. You can have one guy play a whole cast of characters, be in scenes with himself, have that be a more natural sort of acting pipeline. It's not like that's part of the text in the way that the dad and Hook are usually double cast in Peter Pan, but it feels kind of natural in that same sort of way.
Yeah, they're reflections of Scrooge. It makes sense.
Yeah.
It's thematically appropriate.
The Ghost of Marley is his guilt. The Ghost of Christmas Past is his regret. The Ghost of Christmas Present is his loneliness, and the Ghost of Christmas Future is his fear. It works. It just, they don't bother explaining why they're doing it, or at least just having Jim Carrey make fart noises when he's a giant man. That would be cool.
It is odd to watch a modern adaptation of a classical work and be like, man, I wish he was breaking scene to teach someone how to Dougie. I wish there was more
Right. I wish he was do not go in there.
Right. You're just do something, motherfucker.
Yeah, he does a little at the end, as we will, I'm sure, talk about, right? When he's happy Scrooge, he's finally, it feels riffing a little bit, doing some Carrey stuff.
Yeah.
It's a thin gruel.
I will say this. I think Christmas Carol I can't think of another thing that is so frequently adapted where we talk about how it's adapted in terms of who plays Scrooge instead of who directed it. It's the Alistair Sim Christmas Carol. It's the Patrick Stewart Christmas Carol. It's the George C. Scott Christmas Carol, whatever. And, like this is the only one where it's like, yeah, that's Zemeckis' Christmas Carol. That's partially because Zemeckis is such a big deal. And it's partially because Jim Carrey leaves absolutely no impression.
Because this absolutely should be the Jim Carrey Christmas Carol. You have to imagine that's why Disney pulled the trigger so hard on this thing. If I could back up a little bit to just do a little bit of table setting, because this is like a byproduct of I think, a really interesting kind of 5-year period at Walt Disney Studios, where they're in this transition zone. It's sort of the jump between Eisner being ousted and Iger fully dominating the motion picture landscape before they start acquiring everything and just become, the owners of all IP. But I know, their animation studio was still on the rocks. They're in the process of rebuilding it. Pixar had just been acquired by them. So 2009, the last 3 Pixar movies had been Up, WALL-E, and Ratatouille, the 3 movies that Pixar produced independently. So, Disney's influence on Pixar won't come into effect until next year with Toy Story 3. Bolt is, I think, the year before this. Tangled is the year after this. That's really when Disney Animation is kind of up on its feet. The Pirates of the Caribbean series, perhaps tapped out at this point. They revive it again, but at this point it was like, maybe that's 3 and done. I think there was a major awareness on their part that they did not have boys brands. That was always sort of talked about, that they were trying to retool the Disney princess strength in a modern way, aside from just the legacy characters on sleeping bags. But they were like, we need boys things. So Tron Legacy happens, and Prince of Persia happens. Lone Ranger happens at an outrageous budget. But they're just taking big bets on trusted names for things where it's like, is that an old franchise that maybe has enough cult appeal? Are these people who have been good with us in the past? Are they going to be able to make something new? Alice in Wonderland comes out 5 months after this, and is a humongous hit that I feel really starts to mark the transitional point. That movie very much feels like it came out of, we want to be in business with big talent. We want to get Burton back in the fold. We want to come up with a new take on Alice in Wonderland. But what stems out of that, obviously, is just, let's remake all of our legacy titles. Let's just get more literal about putting these things into live action. But this is the end of Dick Cook's run, and it felt like he was really starting to experiment. And there was a story I remember reading on Ain't It Cool or whatever in 07 or 08 about the big upfront meeting they had for their shareholders, where they were announcing and showing off concept art for the next 3 years of their big movies. And it was the kind of thing that gets live streamed now and people lose their minds over, because we now all like watching shareholder presentations as content. But back then it was a thing that didn't leak out, and there were just weird written reports of it, and these guys coming out and selling their pitch. And Zemeckis came out and pitched the Christmas Carol thing and showed off the artwork, the concept artwork, and was just look, first of all, Jim Carrey is the ultimate mocap actor. Think about what we're starting to work
Rubber
on here.
Face, yeah.
Right. I tell you, Jim Carrey and mocap playing multiple characters, already $ in the eyes, right? Then I go, Jim Carrey as Scrooge. You should get amped. That feels like a great part for him. And the other characters he's playing are the ghosts, and people are losing their minds. And then he's like, and by the way, I have a pretty good track record when it comes to time travel movies. And I just remember reading that, it brought the fucking house down. And people were salivating, and they were like, yes, yes. And he was like, Polar Express, remember that shit? They still release it in IMAX every year. It makes another $10 million. And people are fucking Arsenio Wolf hollering. You can see how on paper, even though now it feels like a kind of risky bet because everything has been so algorithmed, and you so rarely get a movie that isn't from a very specific, well-established pipeline coming out of Disney. This does kind of check off all the boxes where you have to imagine Disney maybe regrets that they didn't do Polar Express, that this technology seems like it's not going anywhere, although it ends up mutating after this into a pretty different form. The straight mocap movie pretty much ends after this, save for Tintin. And also, Jim Carrey, that's a big star we want to be in business with. Much like they had done Bedtime Stories, that they were we want to make an Adam Sandler movie. We want to make these big movie star movies. We want to be in these brand silos. When Iger comes on and it just becomes we have our 4 pipelines. That's it. All that experimentation goes away. Another weird thing that came out of that pitch presentation, do either of you remember this? That they announced that Guillermo del Toro was going to be given his own imprint at Disney called Disney Double Dare You, where he was going to get to make live action and animated films at a mid-sized budget that were particularly designed to scare children.
I do remember that. Mm-hmm.
I remember that, and literally like 6 months later, he gave some interview where he was like, yeah, that never happened. Like, that's not going to happen.
Dick Cook got fired and everything went out the window. And then you have these vestiges, the leftover movies like Christmas Carol.
But there was also so much post Hellboy 2 Guillermo stuff that never came together. Like, he was the king of announcing shit that sounded cool and would fall apart. And then, of course, Hobbit being the ultimate, version of that.
The first year I went to Comic-Con was 2009, and that was Christmas Carol year. And Disney was like the first presentation in the big ass Hall H, which is where they have all the movie stuff. And Christmas Carol had a lot of buzz coming out of that. People were like, this looks really cool. The ghosts look great, blah, blah, blah. And like, I don't know what they showed because I assume they showed footage from this film, but people were like buzzing about it. So I was kind of hyped for this movie.
There's another factor at play, which is just that 3D was still pretty fresh. There weren't a lot of fully 3D movies, and especially movies like designed with someone who understands the technology as well as Zemeckis does. So I just feel like when people would see a 5-minute sizzle reel or a trailer of this, you were just kind of so dazzled by like, oh my God, there's so much like kinetic energy and movement and everything's popping into my face that people would be like, I guess it looks great.
No. I thought this movie looked like shit. I thought it was a bad idea at the time. I want that on the record. I heard the idea and I was like, that sounds stupid.
That was also the first year they did 3D presentations in Hall H, and that was the year they presented Avatar, and everyone was like, this looks terrible.
This is what Griff and I were talking about. This movie is, what is it, Griff, 6 weeks before Avatar?
Avatar comes out
in November.
6 weeks after this movie. They look like they're in different decades. There are aspects of Avatar that already are looking creaky, but geez Louise, these films do not feel like they are of the same generation, let alone within a 2-month span of each other.
It's really like Cameron is really spanking Zemeckis in terms of like, okay, you think you're like the sort of pioneering VFX director, but like you truly do not know what you're doing with this stuff. Like, I mean, I know he's not doing this aggressively, but that's just how it feels. And they do feel like after this, Zemeckis slinks off and, cuts it out. Like, I mean, he gets tempted back later, as we will see, but he's like, I'm going to go make Flight. Yeah.
This is the other part of it I want to frame, is that Image Movers, his company, which had sort of become Image Movers Digital and was starting to rebrand itself as like an animation company, did Polar Express at Warner Brothers, Monster House at Sony, Beowulf at Paramount. Most of those films were independently financed, sold off to distributors. Disney was like, we want you. These were the types of acquisitions they were making. Rather than buying Marvel for billions of dollars, they were like, can we get a first look 3-picture deal with Image Movers? Maybe this is the future. So it was this film, and then 2 months after this movie, 3 months after this movie, Mars Needs Moms comes out. Mm-hmm. And he was getting ready to film Yellow Submarine the weekend Mars Needs Moms came out, and they literally like pulled the plug, turned the lights off, shut everything down. He was like ready to go. And there's a lot of artwork you can see for that looks incredibly strange. But he was going to do what was described as a more narrative-based Yellow Submarine.
It sucked so much. It was going to be the worst.
It looked so weird. Have you seen the pictures?
I've seen the picture of the purple meanie, and it looks to me like some Alice in Wonderland crap, and I hate it.
It also looks like Rudy Giuliani. But then there's a picture
kind of look like there is one that really looks like Rudy Giuliani.
There's a picture of the Beatles, and they have like Bananas Yellow Submarine proportions where their arms and legs are like 12 feet long and like, the width of spaghetti. He's going for less photorealistic with it, which at least feels like, well, that's where you should have been going earlier on. But Disney just bails entirely on the notion of like this being a form of entertainment, this being the guy to be in business with. And that's when he totally slinks off and apparently like retreats to a house and like reassesses his life. And then is like, send me good spec scripts. Let me just read good live action movies that won't cost much to make.
I mean, you know this, like Peter Serafinowicz was going to play Paul, right?
Yes,
Paul.
yes.
He was going to play Paul.
Yeah.
Crazy.
I've talked to him about it a lot. I mean, they were like really ready to go. Yeah. And he was very excited about it. I mean, he's a really big Beatles fan. I think he was just very excited to be playing that part.
Yes. I think it's also worth noting that it wasn't just that Mars Needs bombed, although, of course, that thing bombed. But A Christmas Carol did not make money. Like, even though it was pretty successful, in terms of money gross,
so fucking much. Right. Yeah. So it was like a hit, but a hit at the box office that ended up being a money loser for them. And then Mars Needs Moms was radioactive.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Mars didn't need moms.
It didn't need them.
And like Christmas Carol should generate money, but this was so expensive. And like, you could see Disney being like, well, we can bring it back every year. Like they do with Paul. And it never happened. It never became that kind of movie.
So that's the other interesting kind of rabbit hole I went down here, trying to figure out like why Disney was so confident about this. The other aspect is, in terms of Disney trying to like check off boxes at this point in time, trying to rebuild their world domination and being like, we need an action franchise. We need a this. We need a that. We need this going. Disney surprisingly doesn't really have like a definitive Christmas movie. And for an entertainment company as vertically integrated as Disney, the value of having a Christmas movie that's going to like pop up again in revenue every year, that will always be like replayed on TV, go up in rentals, you can re-release, you can do all the merchandise. And like, I feel like they've now kind of squared the circle by being like, Nightmare Before Christmas is both.
That's their one, right? Yeah. Right. I mean, you're forgetting another film that I directed 3/4 of.
You directed 3/4 of it?
Yeah.
Nutcracker in the Four Realms.
Right, exactly. I did 3 of those realms.
But David, to this point, Nutcracker in the Four Realms is like the one inexplicable Disney movie of the last 5 years.
Right, and it's them being like, can we get a Christmas movie?
Right, it has to be. It has to be. And even like the Santa Claus trilogy, which is successful for them, has not lingered in that same kind of way. Like, you have to imagine Disney is like, I wish we had an elf. I wish we had a Christmas Story. I wish we had A Wonderful Life.
Okay, now that this begs the question, what are the best? What's like? Come on, Emily, Griffin, Ben, Christmas movie. Like, come on, what's your Christmas movie?
Always, It's a Wonderful Life. Like, I just, I
a classic, a great one.
But yeah, like I just can't top that one. I think it is interesting that Disney purchased 20th Century Fox, and like if you go on Disney Plus, their Christmas section is mostly 20th Century Fox movies.
Like Home Alone.
That's
the thing.
Okay,
Miracle on 34th. I was going to say.
They're really weaponizing Home Alone now. They're like pushing Home Alone nostalgia hard because I think they're like, finally we have one that like people are in the feels about. And Nightmare Before Christmas, it gets murky between the two holidays. I mean, it's same obvious lazy answers for me. Elf is my favorite modern one. Muppet Christmas Carol is probably my emotional favorite. Wonderful Life, I think, is the best. My secret stealth answer, even though it doesn't totally fit, but it is a movie set around Christmas and New Year's, is Hudsucker Proxy. Like, Hudsucker Proxy is the movie that feels most like the holidays for me.
The movie that I love, even though I know it's total shit, but I watch it every year. Like, a lot of people have that relationship with Love Actually. I have that relationship with The Family Stone, which I know David abhors.
About to say, don't you fucking say the fucking Family fucking Stone to me.
Emily, yes.
Fucking piece of shit movie.
Yes, Emily, yes.
Why do people like this movie? Okay, look.
It works. It just fucking
Emily,
works.
It works.
You're not the only person. Lots of people like that movie.
Griffey Nooms
apparently.
Yeah.
Likes that movie.
You can't go wrong. It's just a great cast. They're having I love the giant family assembles at Christmas movie. It could be a lot worse than Family Stone, and I would still love it. Yeah.
Thank you.
Family Stone is so bad. It's a film I saw with my grandma at Christmas, and I loved, and I had my Rachel McAdams crush was at its peak.
Yeah.
And she's wearing like a Dinosaur Jr. shirt in that movie, and she's got glasses.
I want to note that at this time on the message board, you had a Rachel McAdams and Wedding Crashers signature in your picture because you just were so into her.
Call me out. I'll fucking admit it. Absolutely. I don't remember that, but I believe it. I loved Rachel McAdams. I still love Rachel McAdams.
The best.
And me and my fucking grandma walked out of that movie being like, that was kind of disappointing. Like, it didn't get me, and I've never seen it since. And I keep being like, should I give it one more shot? Like, people love The Family Stone.
Yeah.
Like, even though the director, I feel like, never really had another hit, right?
That Diane Lane, Kevin Costner movie that just came out. That's like the highest grossing movie in America by default. And then he
Let
did
him go. And he did the one with Selena
Monte Carlo.
Gomez. Yeah, right. Okay.
Someone was tweeting the other day, some critic who I apologize for not giving credit to, but someone was tweeting like, he's this incredibly weird figure because he goes like 10 years in between movies and he makes like a low scale exercise in a kind of forgotten genre that's slightly better than it needs to be and then just kind of disappears again.
I remember when Family Stone came out, or when it was screening, there was a movie every year that esteemed internet commentator David Poland every year would be like, this is going to be an Oscar player. This is going to win a bunch of awards. Family Stone was his movie in 2005, and then it did nothing at the Oscars. So
you speak, of course, the Poland curse. The Poland
curse, yeah.
Right, the Poland curse. It was, I was all in on those boards at the time. Or certainly at least the comment sections on the hot blog, or as Lex G would call it, the cold blog. A savage, a brutal takedown from Lex G. But yes, the most infamous one was when he said that Phantom of the Opera was going to win Best Picture. That it was like, we have our front runner.
Mini Driver snubbed.
When are you doing Schumacher? When are you doing Schumacher?
Get out of here. It's too fucking long. It's half a year, Joel Schumacher.
That's the problem. I'd love to cherry pick.
Yeah. Oh boy, it's long. We've talked, we've sort of, joked about it or whatever. It's also a weird, sad ending. The last like 5 just stink.
Oh yeah.
Family Stone. Okay. So whatever. Maybe, you know what? I'm going to watch The Family Stone. The everyone's favorite wife swap movie about white guilt, right? Like there's that whole scene where Sarah Jessica Parker points at herself to reference race or whatever. Anyway, Christmas movies. People like that new one, The Happiest Season. I haven't seen it yet.
Excited to watch it.
That seems cute. Family Stone vibes, right? Like that's
right.
It is a mediocre family gets together at Christmas movie because it doesn't give anybody but Kristen Stewart and Mackenzie Davis anything to do. But it's a very sweet Christmas rom-com about 2 ladies, which is right up my alley.
I love Home for the Holidays personally. The Jodie Foster movie.
That's a fantastic movie. Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is another. I believe is it? I can't even remember if it's Thanksgiving or Christmas. It's Christmas, right?
I think it's Thanksgiving.
It's Thanksgiving. It's Thanksgiving. Yeah. That's the only problem with it. But it's the same obvious. It's the same thematic thing. I love. Yeah, you know what? I love Robert Downey Jr. movies. I love Kiss Kiss Bang Bang. That's a great Christmas movie. Obviously, Iron Man 3, the iconic Christmas movie that we love. Griffin?
Can we go on a little side tangent here? This shit that gets litigated every year of like, but is that a Christmas movie? As if there is some governing board, as if it's like champagne. And unless the film is produced...
I am the governing board. So let me just determine right now. Name some movies. I'll tell you if they're Christmas movies.
But all Shane Black movies are Christmas movies, right?
Of course,
there shouldn't be any litigation there.
To the degree that I always think Die Hard is a Shane Black movie because it features Christmas so prominently.
Thank you. Right. Same here. I always file it in the Shane Black cabinet.
Right. And Shane Black wrote many a Bruce Willis movie. But no, A Little Princess. That's another one. That's a Christmas movie, right? I don't really remember, but Christmas must happen in that movie.
Yeah.
Yeah. I like Fanny and Alexander is like a Christmas movie to me because it has a gorgeous Christmas sequence. Yeah.
The thing is, and I don't think I'm, telling tales out of school here, is like the Christmas movie for me is Fellowship of the Ring. Like not even all the Lord of the Rings.
I agree. The Lord of the Rings movies, I watch all of them around around Christmas.
They're
Really?
right.
Oh,
They're
yeah.
classic. They're
Yes.
a classic Christmas rewatch. I basically
Definitely.
do it every year. I don't
Wow.
always make it to Return of the King, like because they're long. But Fellowship of the Ring, I think, has to be in the canon. Emily,
David, and they're like on cable TV.
Yeah, right.
Because I
They're
feel
on
like I'm
TV,
at my
right, yeah.
parents' house and I'll watch them with commercials. Like they just feel
I
like
mean-
they're running.
Look, we're going to
Absolutely.
let Emily do the final ruling here, but for me, that's where it starts to become questionable. Like when people go like, no, Die Hard's an action movie, it's not a Christmas movie. It's like one doesn't negate the other. It's set around Christmas. Christmas is interwoven throughout the entire film. Fellowship of the Ring, your argument is, I watch it at Christmas time, it feels
They've got
Christmassy.
elves, Griffin. Come on.
they've got elves. All
Is it
Christmas
textually
movies-
Christmas?
Yes, all Christmas movies are about like needing people in your life at hard times, right? Like that's what Christmas movies are about, right?
Let me submit that a movie that becomes a legitimate, gigantic phenomenon that changes the film industry that comes out at Christmas,
That's
which
the other
happens
thing, of
very
course.
rarely,
Yes.
can be sort of a Christmas movie by proxy. Like it has to be brought to the party by a different Christmas movie.
Okay.
But I would say the three Lord of the Rings and Titanic both fit
Wow.
that criteria. So
Titanic's
I'm putting
an
them
interesting
in.
One. That's
Putting
an
'em in.
interesting One.
I'd like to throw out two obvious Griff picks as well.
Sure.
Gremlins. Great Christmas
Yes.
movie.
Yeah.
Yep.
The Phoebe Cates Santa Claus speech, one of my favorite elements of Christmas filmmaking ever. Batman Returns, great Christmas movie.
Of course,
Yeah.
absolutely. I also, of course, one has to acknowledge Eyes Wide Shut, of course, a great Christmas movie.
Wonderful
yeah.
Christmas movie.
Perfect
and,
Christmas movie.
Of course, Trapped in Paradise. Like that's a classic Christmas movie. The
Film that was
Dana
written,
Carvey,
directed, and produced by Ben.
Nicolas Cage, John Lovett's film. I mean, we all love that, right?
I've never seen Trapped in Paradise.
I think the even more interesting sort of question is these movies that have a Christmassy vibe, but aren't actually about Christmas. Like the one I always point to is The Royal Tenenbaums, which
Sure.
doesn't actually have anything to do with Christmas, but feels like it takes place at Christmas.
Wes Anderson definitely. A lot of his movies, I feel like, have that sort of because they have a snow globe feel to them, you know. But yes, Royal Tenenbaums, especially because it's about family and all that. That also brings it in. You know, family movies about family often sort of end up getting sifted into this box.
Well, I read one of the National Treasure producers was doing press for some other movie he produced or something, and they asked about why National Treasure 3 never happened, and he offered one of the 15 excuses that come up from time to time. But the one he said that was different was, you know, Disney is so vertically integrated, they never figured out how to make National Treasure valuable for them in any other sector of their business. They never figured out how to put it in the theme parks. It never became merchandise.
Sure.
You know, you couldn't do, like, the video games didn't work. Like, there was no other area of the company that could benefit from National Treasure. And as time went on, Disney became all about, like, a movie needs to function in every facet of our company. And something like Santa Claus, the Santa Claus trilogy, the Tim Allen movies, they're hits. All three of them do well enough for there to be three of them. But even though I think there is some nostalgia for them from our generation, it doesn't feel like they're the same kind of like perennial, regular TV appointment viewing movies. It doesn't feel like they've ever gained any value at Disney in other areas of the company. And you just have to imagine in 2009, Disney's looking around and they're like, we don't have a Grinch. We don't have a Charlie Brown. We don't have a Buddy the Elf. Like, aside from not having, like, a classical Christmas movie, we also don't have, like, a mascot of Christmas. We can put Mickey in a Santa hat, you know? Even to some degree, I wonder if that's a reason why they never have weaponized Muppet Christmas Carol as much as I thought they would after they bought it, that they want something that is, like, proprietary to Christmas. So the appeal for them of, like, let's get a massive movie star and a massive filmmaker doing, like, what could be the definitive Scrooge. And he can be like all designed to look perfect like Scrooge and the ghost will look awesome. It tracks on paper. But I agree with you, David, that when I saw it, I thought it looked like, to quote David Sims, film critic at The Atlantic, like a bowl of farts. I thought it looked like a bowl of farts. And I remember just feeling like, this is still as far as the technology has come. This is still the sensibility that Zemeckis is hitching his wagon to. That having been said, remember going to see movies with my friends in theaters. That trailer came up. One friend in particular, I remember turning to me and going, that looks amazing.
I remember the trailer being very extra. It was really trying to sell that his face, and how intense it looked, all that. Right.
There's a money shot at the end of the trailer that isn't in the movie where he's
like slamming the door or something. Right. Yeah.
He turns the camera and his face is like coming into the theater and like a snowflake lands on his nose.
Yes.
He blows it off. He looks straight down the barrel of the lens and he says, "Bah humbug." And I swear, it must have been a test. It must have been the demo reel to get them to greenlight the movie, because it also looks so much better than he looks at any point in the film proper. But I remember that shot and my friend Dixie turning to me and saying, "Oh, that looks amazing." And I was like, "Really? You think that looks amazing?" And she went, "Well, I guess I've never seen a 3D movie before."
Sure.
We were going to see some other 3D movie. That was the first trailer in 3D. And that being her first impression was like, oh shit, this trailer's doing all sorts of crazy shit. It looks amazing. It didn't open well, but it did. People went to see this.
People went to see it. It opened poorly and then had okay holds. But
it did well overseas.
But they wanted, it did okay. It did about the same overseas. They wanted the Polar Express thing, I think.
Right.
Were really overperformed, come Christmas time, and it did not.
If you open a Christmas movie the first weekend of November and you can keep it in theaters, it will have a pretty. But yeah, I think it's. I remember I went to see this movie on Christmas Eve because I was like, I'm going to go see a movie, and the theater was packed. Like people were coming out for it. So, but yeah, I agree with sort of your theory of where Disney was. I think Santa Claus would be a bigger thing for them if not for Tim Allen. I think that Tim Allen kind of killed that movie by being Tim Allen in a weird way.
It is also interesting that the first movie is so much like fish out of water. He's at odds. You wouldn't believe this guy is Santa Claus. And the sequels lean so much into Tim Allen in so much makeup looking like Coca-Cola Santa Claus.
Yeah, the poster for the second Santa Claus movie was just Tim Allen looking at you looking like Santa Claus. That was it.
Right. At this point, he doesn't look like Tim Allen anymore. He doesn't sound like Tim Allen. There are no arus to be found.
I'm gonna save it, in fact, and I'm gonna make it my background. Here we go. Anyway, this movie. So you saw it in theaters, Emily.
I saw it in theaters. I did. I waited until Christmas Eve. I was going to see it opening weekend, but the reviews were so bad. And then I was just like,
it's wild. It's wild, this picture we're looking at. No one's cheeks have ever been rosier.
He looks drunk. I mean, let's just be straightforward. His face is red. It's the color red.
It's wild.
He looks like Ham from like a shot in the 50s. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yes, I do. Back when they were like, it's how it looks is what matters. Let's put as many chemicals as you want into it. It should look like fucking, like a red sausage.
Yeah.
This is another interesting point, though, is like, you look at this poster and you go, why pay for Tim Allen? Like, what are you doing here?
Just go to Macy's. Like, who cares?
Right. Versus another thing you have to calculate into this very movie is The Grinch was so fucking successful, despite being a piece of shit. It was so huge, and the fact that Jim Carrey was unrecognizable in it did not hurt business at all. People were like into the transformation of, oh my God, it doesn't look like him. It doesn't sound like him. He's transformed into this classic character.
Yeah, it's this thing that really becomes like the impetus to do a lot of these films is how can we make this person look exactly like the Grinch, look exactly like Santa Claus, look exactly like J.D. Vance, the writer of Hillbilly Elegy.
Damn it, I was trying to get Santa Claus 3 going, but it doesn't really work with the background. I'm sick of it too.
Santa Claus 2 is kind of my aspirational fantasy, which is that I will meet a middlingly attractive middle-aged man who's like, listen, I'm in love with you and I'm going to make you Mrs. Claus and you just have to move with me to the North Pole.
That's the premise of my
I'm
show.
going to think about it.
Keep it up in the closet.
I'm going to think about it every time.
Keep it up with the closet.
Click. Hello. Hello. Oh, wow. Not really speaking English to me right now. Who is this?
I don't know, David. Also, this guy looks weird, right? I don't want to judge, but this guy's got an odd look.
I don't want to pass judgment either, but yeah, definitely a whole vibe here.
Like a naked mole rat, right? I mean, this is like, what is? Oh, wait a second. He's writing something down on a piece of paper, and he's holding it up to. Oh my God, David. It's Cousin It.
Oh, it's Cousin It from the Addams Family, the famously, usually hairy creature who, it's just kind of like a big pillar of hair, usually.
That's why I didn't recognize him. I think Cousin It's been losing his hair, David.
Oh, that's too bad. I'm sorry.
It's kind of his entire gimmick.
That is kind of his thing. It's true. Well,
no, thing is its own thing.
Oh, that's a good point.
That is its bit, I would argue. Yeah.
Right.
Well, I feel bad. Is there anything we could do? I mean, this guy is not going to keep on booking roles looking like this. He's got the bowler hat and the sunglasses, but it just doesn't pop the same way on dewy pink flesh.
Right. And so many people's identity is wrapped up in their hair. That's why you get, some fresh styles, right? Once you're in your 20s, your 30s, you start losing your hair. I don't know how old it is, but it definitely feels like panic
70, 80?
Yeah, who knows?
Definitely. I mean, he looks panicked. You can see it in his eyes, or I imagine you'd see it behind those sunglasses.
Well, okay, look, thankfully now there's Keeps. There's a simple and easy way to keep your hair, okay?
Oh, thank God.
Right, okay. The easiest way to prevent hair loss, and this might not apply to you, but I don't know. I haven't looked at your entire body yet, but is to do something about it while you still have some hair left. Now, you used to have to go to a doctor's office for your hair loss prescription, but thanks to Keeps, you can visit a doctor online and get hair loss medication delivered right to your home. Make it easy. They deliver it every 3 months. You can say goodbye to pharmacy lines and awkward visits.
He seems very excited.
I mean, that's good. It's really exciting to hear because Keeps has generic versions of the only 2 FDA-approved hair loss products out there. You've probably tried them before. Never for this price. It's going to take about 4 to 6 months to see results, so it's important to act fast. The sooner you start, the more hair you're going to save.
Right. Ideally, you want to start now so you're hirsute by the time the Addams Family 2 comes out, Halloween 2021.
Exactly, and we definitely can bet on that's definitely going to happen.
Absolutely going to happen.
Look, Keeps treatments, they start at just $10 a month, and for a limited time, you can get your first month free, okay? So, if you're ready to take action and prevent hair loss, go to keeps.com/check to receive your first month of treatment for free. That's KEEPS.com/check. KEEPS.com/check. Keeps. I did not see this film, Griffin. I decided to not see it. That was my choice.
Same here.
And I'm glad that you respect it. Instead, I probably saw Avatar again, or I saw Sherlock Holmes, or trying to think of the sort of big Christmas movies that year.
I absolutely saw Avatar for the 3rd time on Christmas Day with my family.
Some of the other big movies at Christmas. I'm not spoiling the box office game because, of course, this film came out in early November. Avatar,
Alvin and the Chipmunks, the Squeakquel.
Alvin and the Chipmunks, the Squeakquel.
Right. It was that bananas weekend. It was like it still is, I think, the single biggest day in movie-going history because of Avatar, Squeakquel, and Sherlock Holmes all opening to over 70.
Yes, and I think also like Christmas was a Friday, so like it was all perfectly lined up. It's Complicated came out on Christmas Day.
Right.
You have Up in the Air. These are Christmas movies that I was seeing. I did not see A Christmas Carol. I saw it yesterday on my couch, and I thought it was bad. 3 out of 10.
I watched it tonight right before recording on a 3D Blu-ray. I could not believe how boring it was. I texted David, I believe, let me get my exact wording here.
Please.
I said, how is Carrey so dry in this movie? He is weirdly underplaying every role. He's funnier in The Majestic.
Yes. And I believe I said, like, I mean, my thing is like, and you'll agree with it, like, Scrooge is like Mr. Burns. He is the most ridiculous, exaggerated character.
Yeah.
He is the meanest person alive. He's the most miserly person. Like, his personality traits are the most. Like, that's what Scrooge is.
Signing on to play Scrooge is like stepping into a gondola on the River of Ham.
Right.
It should be.
And Carrey, on top of this, is a cartoon in the movie. So it's not just that he's playing Scrooge, it's that he's playing him as a cartoon. And his take is like, I'll play him as like kind of grumpy. And I think that's what I'm going to go for. He's going to be like a little grumpy. He
should have gone full Riddler. He should have just gone for it. But
even like whatchamacallit, Series of Unfortunate Events is 5 years before this and is arguably a better Scrooge performance than this is. Like, that's the kind of energy he should be bringing to this.
And Dr. Robotnik is 11 years later and is a better Scrooge. He's given us many a Scrooge. Like, he has
you know who else is a better Scrooge? The Grinch.
The Grinch, another classic Scrooge. That's another reason he shouldn't be Scrooge. You already played the fucking Grinch. Like, how many Christmas grumps do you need Jim Carrey to bring you?
So I found a quote that Carrey said in an interview while promoting the movie. He said, it's a very classical version of A Christmas Carol. There are a lot of vocal things, a lot of physical things I have to do, not to mention doing the accents properly. The English, Irish accents. I want it to fly in the UK. I want it to be good, and I want them to go, yeah, that's for real. It feels like that was his biggest take on each of the characters, was like, Ghost of Christmas Past, lilting Irish accent, check, work done. Ghost of Christmas Present, kind of roly-poly Yorkshire guy, check, job done. Ghost of Christmas to Be, just point a lot, check, job done.
And the Ghost of Christmas Past is so disturbing looking. I actually yelped when it came up yesterday when I was watching this movie. I was like, oh my God, what's that? His head's a candle, which is, from the book.
His body's a candle. His head's a flame, Emily.
His head's a flame, yeah. Oh, that's right. I'm sorry.
His head is fire.
His head is fire. He
moves around. He moves around. The fire moves with him, and his face looks like a little squat jack-o'-lantern. It's so disturbing. But weirdly not the ugliest character in this film, because the ugliest character is obviously Bob Cratchit, who
Bob
looks
Cratchit like terrifying looking.
Looks like a potato that has the face of Jesus in it. That's what it looks like.
Yes.
Emily,
Yes.
the term I was about to say was pube potato. I also went to potato, but I couldn't get over the hair pattern on that potato.
I want to look at it again now. It's so weird because we literally had when is Gary Oldman playing fucking Sirius Black as a fire in Goblet of Fire? Remember, there's where his face is just made of coal. He looks
2 years earlier. Yeah.
Right. He looks better in that than he does in this. It's the weird cheeks that's all messed up about. It's something about the way his cheeks.
He looks like a rodent. Like, if you saw him in your house, you would leave out poison.
But you also think about Weta is running the table on mocap at this point in time, right? Mm-hmm. And pointedly, Weta never tried to make their characters look too much like the actors, right? Maybe they put a little hint of it in there, but they were always sort of extrapolating as much onto a different model, which also necessitated some massaging and keyframe animation that probably made the performances better. Whereas Zemeckis was so into it's 1-to-1. We're not futzing with it at all. It's straight there, unvarnished. It is bizarre that Zemeckis is so committed to all the characters need to look like the actors. But in this one in particular, he hires people who are so physically different than the characters they're playing. So you get these odd, like, it looks like that fucking face replacement app that everyone does now where they put their own face into different videos.
Where you're smiling, right, all of a sudden, yes.
Right, and you're just like, that is not the body that Gary Oldman's face belongs on. He is also not Tiny Tim. Why make a little boy Tiny Tim that moves like Gary Oldman and looks kind of like a young Gary Oldman and then is just voiced by some other child?
Have you, since you've done your Polar Express episode, there was a quote Zemeckis gave around the time that movie came out. So tell me if you talked about this. That is just horrifying now when we think about who we cast in certain roles. Where he was talking about, okay, imagine being able to do a story about, the Brown versus Board of Education, but Meryl Streep can play one of the little girls who has to go to the school and
oh my God,
Bob. But he got his dream. Gary Oldman's playing Tiny Tim. He
Hanks plays the little boy, and in Mars Needs Moms, Seth Green plays the boy. He was really into having adults play kids, and in each of those cases, the plan was to have the adult actor also voice the kid, and at the last second, it was too creepy, and they hired a kid to redub it.
We should also mention, so that's Gary Oldman. Colin Firth is in this movie, third build, as Fred Scrooge or whatever.
Yes. Yeah. Freddy Scrooge.
Also looking kind of like Colin Firth in a weird, creepy, waxy way. You've got Hoskins coming in as Mr. Fezziwig. For one big sort of musical sequence, essentially, right?
The hot chocolate of this movie.
Yes, the hot. You got Robin Wright Penn playing once again a stone-faced nobody woman character. Every time he's like, Robin, let's get you in.
David, I must correct you. She plays two different stone-faced, nothing female characters.
She plays both his sister and fiance, I believe.
Correct.
Yes.
Correct.
Exactly.
Yeah. And then Cary Elwes, his main job was to be the actor that Jim Carrey acted against in every scene. Right. For any of the scenes where he is playing against himself in the final cut. So most of Cary Elwes' work was not used, and then they gave him 5 nothing roles.
Yeah, he plays Portly Gentleman and Mad Fiddler and Guest 2.
He plays the guy who asks Scrooge for money, which is,
that's his biggest
part.
That's his biggest part. Right.
And then Scrooge is poor children should go to jail. And he's like, well, they might die. And Scrooge is like, good. That's great. I love that. Thin out the herd.
Elwes was also...
That guy's impolite.
Elwes was also supposed to be in Yellow Submarine. And to some degree, I think Elwes was making a play to be Zemeckis' circus. I think he might have been can I be one of these guys who figures out this medium and becomes a go-to mocap stock company actor?
Sure.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
And it worked.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. It worked.
Worked perfectly.
Instead, he produced Elvis and Nixon.
And co-wrote it.
Did he co-wrote? He did. He co-wrote it. Wow.
Cary Elwes co-wrote. But yes, Jim Carrey plays Ebenezer Scrooge at all ages. Each age is credited as a separate character that he played in the end credits. I don't know if you noticed that, but it's adult Scrooge, young man Scrooge, little boy Scrooge, Scrooge as teenager, and all of them are credited to Jim Carrey as separate.
Scrooge, when he's kind of waking up and he feels a little tired, Scrooge during the day, Scrooge at work. This should just keep going.
Scrooge at night.
They should have really credited both mean Scrooge and nice Scrooge as different characters.
They're different men. Oh, also Gary Oldman is Marley.
Yeah.
Yes, he plays Marley. I would say, and maybe this is a hot take, the worst looking creation in the entire movie.
Which defies logic. Yes. Spooky CGI ghost. That should be a slam dunk.
He looks just like a person that is blue. Rather than being transparent and ghostly. And I remember he's in the trailer. And that was why when I saw the trailer, I was like, they just have not figured this out. There's 3 of these now and they just don't know what they're doing because he looks like shit. And the best Jacob Marley, of course, is the Marley Brothers from Muppet Christmas Carol.
Whoa!
The whole thing about like the bit where he like undoes his cloth and then he has to like flap his mouth up and down like he's a puppet is just
that was
like
weird.
Like it's supposed to be a bit, I think, but not funny or disturbing, really.
This is an era that's really earmarked by Zemeckis having poor impulse control, of just needing to follow through everything he possibly could do at any given moment of a movie. What were you going to say, David? Oh, so bad.
It's just so terrible looking.
Yeah.
It's so bad.
The thing that Emily is referencing where there's the weird kind of body horror, and there's a couple other moments like that, like the skeleton, where it's like, oh, he's kind of doing like more Tales of the Crypty intense visual horror.
I like
in a
that,
kids
though.
movie, right?
I thought that was
where
good.
Like, yeah, where I'm
it's
like,
got
that
bones. It's got dust, and he's laughing on the ground. Those are cool. Those are cool things.
Right. It's an idea. Like, that's what I'll give. You know what I mean? Like, at least it's something.
But like when the little kids wanton ignorance turn into like a criminal and like a sex worker, it's just like, what a weird choice.
That is incredibly bizarre. I did have to double check that it wasn't Leslie Zemeckis playing the adult sex worker, because we've noticed a pattern, Emily, in all of these movies. Zemeckis cast his wife as weirdly the most sexualized character in the mocap universe.
I've seen Welcome to Marwen. I've seen it.
Yeah. But also, do you know his wife is the burlesque puppet in Polar Express?
I did not know that. No.
Yes, and is the busty beer wench in Beowulf, where there's 3 minutes of her pendulous breast swinging.
But in this, she's just Colin Firth's wife.
Yes.
I don't think she has much to do. She is in it. Leslie Manville plays
Mansfield.
Mrs. Cratchit.
Real life ex-wife of Gary Oldman.
It's true. Married to him.
Very odd.
Yeah.
I mean, look, it's a skilled cast. And when we were texting about this, David, you were saying, like, he's treating this as if he's playing King Lear. Like, there's weirdly too much reverence for the idea of what Scrooge is, rather than viewing it as, like, a vehicle to have a lot of fun as an actor, let alone as a comedic actor. And if it's like, if your goal is to do, like, we're doing a very faithful adaptation, we're going to play it straight, we're going to lean more into the spookiness of Dickens or whatever, then it's like, have fucking Gary Oldman or Colin Firth or Bob Hoskins, just to name 3 people who are in this movie, let alone any of the other people from, like, the Zemeckis Rogues Gallery. Have fucking, like, even, you just think about how much more exciting this movie would be. Less commercial, but more exciting it would be if it was Christopher Lloyd is Scrooge in Zemeckis's A Christmas Carol, and you had that kind of manic energy. But it's so bizarre that he is playing it so deadly straight. And I realized watching it, like, I mean, talking about Scrooge as kind of this, like, comedic archetype, right? Christmas Carol is, like, the prototype for that sort of story we love. The royal we. But, like, like something like As Good as It Gets, where it's like, watch a very charismatic movie star play an unrepentant asshole. The first hour of the movie, the fun is, oh my God, they're saying the stuff I would never have the courage to say. They don't give a fuck.
They're Larry Daviding, yes.
Right. And then the last hour of the movie, they learn how to be a good person.
Nicholson would have been a good Scrooge.
Yeah.
It's speaking of people Zemeckis has worked with. I think Harrison Ford now has a great Scrooge in him. I think he'd be great.
He would be so good, but it should be about a California stoner who's rich. You know what I mean? Like, they don't bring him to London. This is the mistake. Stop trying to put these guys in Victorian England. Bring Scrooge to obviously they did it with Bill Murray, right? Like, you can transpose this story to anywhere. Make it be about a guy who's like, all I want to do is yell at David Blaine and make my woodwork, right? Like, that's what you need.
I just think the key detail is the actor needs to have fun being this much of an asshole. The only way A Christmas Carol works is if the audience is getting some perverse pleasure out of how evil Scrooge is, as you said, David, on like a Mr. Burns level, so that we're like invested enough to be touched when the transformation happens. Carrey's just playing an asshole. Like, he's just playing a guy who sucks.
And you're just looking at your watch being like, okay, when's he gonna realize the error of his ways? Like Michael Caine is fucking dialed in Muppet Christmas Carol.
Good.
You know what I mean? Like
So good.
What are the other Christmas carols? I like the Murray. I like Scrooge. It's okay. I've always thought it's a little overrated, but maybe it's underrated. I feel like
it's a little
overrated. It's overrated.
It was like it wasn't even a huge hit at the time, so and maybe it's not overrated, but people maybe put too much on it because it has Bill Murray in it. I like the classics that we talked about. I guess there's no masterpiece.
Have you ever seen The Rich Little Christmas Carol?
I have not.
It is.
I've read about it.
A glorious thing to behold. It is Rich Little playing every part in A Christmas Carol. Many of them as like celebrity impressions. I'm told this is true. They're all celebrities I'm not really aware of.
I will hear. Yeah. I'm going to tell you some of his impersonations. Okay. W.C. Fields as Ebenezer Scrooge. Okay.
I'm looking at this list.
So, I mean, first off, Hammer Blow.
Perfect choice.
You know, the audience is just like, he went there. He's doing, he's satirizing W.C. Fields, who died 30 plus years ago. He's daring to do it. You got Paul Lynde as Bob Cratchit, Johnny Carson as Fred, Laurel and Hardy as the Solicitors, Richard Nixon as Jacob Marley. That's actually a little spicy for 1978.
Yeah.
That's somewhat related to the news of the decade. Groucho Marx as Fezziwig, Peter Falk as the Ghost of Christmas Present. That sounds good.
Yeah.
That actually sounds good. I'm into that. There's no...
You're missing two key details here. It's billed as Peter Falk as Columbo / the Ghost of Christmas Present.
Sure.
To make it clear
get it?
which character he's riffing on. Gene Stapleton as Edith Bunker / Mrs. Cratchit. But then a couple, just to end off strong, Truman Capote as Tiny Tim.
That's just homophobia. I don't know how else to describe that.
Peter Sellers as Inspector Clouseau as the Ghost of Christmas Yet to Come.
I forgot to mention Bogart is the Ghost of Christmas Past. Yes.
You murderer. You almost forgot that. James Mason, George Burns, and John Wayne as the three businessmen, and Jack Benny as a boy.
A boy. Wow.
I presume what day is it, boy?
You boy. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right.
This has a helpful tool. There are 5 of these people were dead at time of production.
Is that not
a laugh track? Just want to say it's no here.
Reading that list,
it's on YouTube.
What we imagine it to be. That's the same kind of thing you imagine hearing Jim Carrey is going to play 4 characters in A Christmas Carol. Like, he's just going to fucking go off. And Carrey, despite not being like a grump as his comedic persona, did a lot of movies where it's like, oh, he's upsetting polite society. He's doing whatever the fuck he wants. Like, there is a devil may care streak to him that in theory should fit well.
Guys. When Richard Nixon comes in as Jacob Marley, instead of chains, he has Watergate tapes. He has like reel-to-reel tapes draped on him. This is a masterpiece.
Oh, boy.
This is so good.
Oh, boy. Yeah.
Oh, my God. Yeah, we got to do it.
You got to watch it. You got to watch it. Yeah.
We got to watch it. I mean, let's do a little Carrey context. We're not digging into the movie as much because everyone knows what this fucking story is.
Yeah, it's Christmas Carol. There's fucking 3 ghosts. Look it up.
Right.
Like, what do you want from me?
It is such a faithful adaptation. Although, if there's anything particular you want to say about it, Emily, adaptation-wise, would very much like to hear it.
We'll get to that, but let's talk Carrey. Because I think this movie is a Rosetta Stone to understand Robert Zemeckis. And I'll tell you why later.
Okay. Carrey, we realized we've never really done a Carrey movie before.
Mm-hmm.
And he's obviously one of the most dominant movie stars in the 90s. And we brought it up recently in a box office game. His bananas year where he has $300 million movies in 1 year. He goes from being a guy who gets paid like $150,000 a movie to a guy who gets paid $7 million a movie. The following year gets $15 million for the Ace Ventura sequel. And the year after that becomes the first actor ever to make $20 million for what ends up being his first major flop. And then he kind of just continues to run the table on the 90s.
Well, he made a movie after The Cable Guy called Liar Liar, in which he couldn't lie, and we, obviously that was a huge hit. He couldn't lie.
Humongous.
And then he does The Truman Show, one of the masterpieces of movie making.
But there was
movies.
There was the cynicism of like, oh, Carrey wants to be serious now, and then people love that movie, and it was a big hit. He didn't get an Oscar nomination, but it was like a major fucking hit. We left off Batman Forever, which happens in between.
95. That's 95. That's post his first wave, right?
But only builds,
only builds. You got Man on the Moon, which I think he's great in.
Very good in that.
I do too, but then that's a box office disappointment.
I guess so. I mean, it's a box office disappointment by the standards of a Jim Carrey movie, I guess. In terms of an Andy Kaufman biopic, it did
huge.
All right.
It must be the highest grossing Andy Kaufman biopic.
It definitely wasn't worth him being that big of a dickhead to make that movie.
Well, it ruined him, right? Isn't that? I haven't ever watched that documentary, but isn't that what that documentary is kind of about?
It's the worst. Yeah. I guess, but it just portrays him in the worst light possible. He's so...
They could retitle that Paranormal Activity 6 outtakes of Jim Carrey on the set of Man on the Moon. It is that upsetting.
He seems like an incredibly difficult person in all ways. And Peter Weir on the Truman Show talks about how you had to tire him out to get a real performance out of it. You had to let him do all his shit, and then then you'll start getting stuff out of him. That was sort of how he approached it.
He definitely feels like an actor you have to wrangle if you're not trying to just make a Jim Carrey vehicle. Something like Liar Liar, you're hiring him to just do everything.
Right. But 2000, I feel like that's when he's starting to just be okay, I'm going to do cartoon stuff, right? Me, Myself, and Irene, that's a cartoon rubber-faced movie. Grinch, obviously.
It's humongous. Highest grossing film of that year.
Then The Majestic. It's weird. It's I love Jim Carrey. Ace Ventura: Pet Detective is literally the first VHS I ever bought with my own allowance. You know what I mean? I was the perfect age for him, much like I imagine you guys kind of were. Maybe not. No.
There was something about Ace Ventura that I always found very disturbing that I didn't understand.
Yeah. Ace Ventura is very disturbing in all ways.
No, I was not allowed to watch Jim Carrey movies, but I did sneak Dumb and Dumber on a class trip, and it's a classic.
It is.
Okay, same thing for me, Emily, and it was because my parents hate him.
Because he's annoying and and he was suddenly everywhere. Ben, where are you on Carrey?
I loved The Mask.
The Mask is good.
Big movie for me. I still say taglines from that movie to this very day. Somebody stop me.
Somebody has to stop you, right?
Yeah, you often yell that at the police. I feel like Truman Show was the first Carrey movie I saw, and I didn't see the Carrey comedies until after that. My parents were just we're not taking you that shit. We find him so annoying. That card game Cinephile, I was playing that over Zoom with my family, and my dad got, or my sister rather, picked up Jim Carrey. We were playing it card on head, guess the name of the person kind of thing, clue style. And so Romilly had Jim Carrey on her head, and my dad was trying to give her clues, and his clue was bad actor. And I was like, you can't give that as a clue as if that's a universal. Right. And he was like, I hate him. It's just, he's so annoying. He couldn't give any clue that wasn't clouded by his opinion of him.
So your dad, okay. Yeah.
No, I was just going to say, I got into him late-ish. 99, I was watching the Carrey comedies on VHS, which is, as you kind of pointed out, when the golden period is over. So the Carrey movies I were seeing in theaters were when the bloom was off the rose. Your Me, Myself, Irene, and Bruce Almighty's and what have you.
Bruce Almighty was a huge hit.
Humongous.
It's not a good movie. It's not even an okay movie. It's really
no, it's bad. It's
kind
actively
of boring
bad.
and
actively
lame.
bad. Actively bad. But it opened to $70 million. It was the biggest opening weekend for an original film ever.
In Bruce We Trust? That was the tagline. He'd done The Majestic, which had bombed. So he was kind of had bombed with everybody. To be, the Majestic is just one of those just total bombs, right? Like it's a Christmas movie, awards potential. The director of The Shawshank Redemption, critics are like, no. Audiences are like, no. Like it was just the complete rejection. He slinks off. He comes back with Bruce Almighty. It's the same move as Liar Liar. He's like, I'm going to come back, high concept comedy. You're going to love it. Like, right? Like we're just going to be with Tom Shadyac. I'm going to just do another Tom Shadyac movie. But then he does have Eternal Sunshine the year after, which is his best performance.
He's
so
amazing,
incredible.
right?
So good.
Yeah. But I feel like Gondry has talked about that he like went to Peter Weir and he went to Darabont. He went to all the directors who've worked with him and are like, tell me all the tricks. I mean, his whole thing was, he said the reason he cast Jim Carrey was based on how lonely and uncomfortable he looked at the end of every episode of In Living Color when they would all come on stage for the good nights. And he was like, that's the performance I wanted him to give. And you got to give Carrey full credit. He's brilliant in that movie. But it also feels like the fact that he's never been able to give a performance like that again speaks to Gondry somehow teasing it out of him.
That's the thing. It's what I'm trying to say here, I guess, is like it's 10 years from Ace Ventura to Eternal Sunshine. And yes, you have a couple bombs in there, but that is a pretty solid block of work, dramatically and comedically. And then, yes, he still like squeaks out hits with like fun with Dick and Jane and Yes Man and A Christmas Carol, right? Like, there's
Mr.
movies
Popper's
are doing okay.
Penguins, David.
Yeah, but, he
Don't forget
pops
the
up with
penguins.
the penguins, but like the life is out of his eyes.
Yes.
It's just like he's just not very fun anymore. Like I remember Yes Man that's probably the most watchable of them because like I don't know, it's a Peyton Reed movie, like Zooey Deschanel's. People are kind of like working in the margins on that one, but I couldn't tell you a thing that happens in it.
No, that's also one of those wild movies where they were like trying to develop a new model to keep budgets of comedies down. So rather than getting $20 or $25 million up front, he took zero upfront salary for 30% of the first dollar gross.
36%. He got a lot of the gross.
He made a lot of fucking money on that movie. But yes, it's never quite the same. And I feel like the last decade he's done a lot of weird, more like supporting parts. I mean, things like Kick-Ass 2 and Burt Wonderstone, when he's in a comedy, he's sort of like playing like the color character.
Right.
And then when he does something like Mr. Popper's Penguins, it feels like there's a gun to his head. I also just like,
there's a penguin to his head.
Well, there are many penguins to his head. They're all holding guns.
I'll say this. I've never seen Dumb and Dumber 2. I have no idea if he's like locked in that one at all.
I tapped out after like 15 minutes on HBO Go. I was not able to stick with it. I feel like there was excitement around that, both like the Fairleys and him returning to form, and then it did well, and just no one ever talked about it ever again. But what I was going to say is I always like try to collect stories when I work as an actor from like other actors, and especially from film and TV crews, because you can get really good gossip, other actors there. I'm less looking for like a savory personal life stuff and more just like I'm curious about what people are like work-wise. Right. And Carrey is one of those people where you just hear the most disastrous, demented stories, where he is just absolutely like a guy who's been so famous for so long and got famous for being unreignable, that he just does whatever the fuck he feels like doing at any given moment. And I'm not talking around like dark, fucked up shit. It's just like the stories are so bizarre where they're like talking to like a grip who's like, yeah, I worked on Mr. Popper's Penguins. We were shooting in this guy's like $15 million Central Park West apartment. The last day of filming, he asked me for a Sharpie pen, and then he drew a giant self-portrait of himself on their living room wall and signed it and said, man, they owe me $20 million for that one.
Wow.
And he's
just in another reality.
He's in another reality. By all accounts, he's in another reality and functions in that way where he is like, I am doing a mitzvah to these people by defacing the wall of their living room with a drawing of myself.
I want to say because of his background in sketch comedy and TV comedy, his big breakthrough role was this sitcom called The Duck Factory that got canceled after 13 episodes, but it was like supposed to make him a star. Right. So he has a lot of experience with TV comedy. I was actually looking forward to him as Joe Biden on Saturday Night Live, and that was a disaster. It was a train wreck.
The worst thing that has ever happened. And like, I too is like, because remember the buzz on that was like, well, Carrey really wants to do it, and he asked Lorne, and he has a take, and I'm like, okay, like sure, if Jim Carrey thinks he wants, and then he's just comes in committed, and does.
He's ready to move to New York.
He just did Fire Marshal Bill. Like there was just nothing going on. Like it was so weird after all that hype. The thing that was so insanely damning about it was that Alec Baldwin looked like fucking the Groucho Marx up there next to him. Alec Baldwin, suddenly I was like, well, Alec Baldwin's actually locked in as Trump. This is good stuff. Like, it was insane. Like, Alec Baldwin was hitting his lines. I was kind of amused. Like, and then you switch back to Biden and he's like, what are we going to do, suckers? And he's like, shooting a finger gun. Like, I did like, Joe Biden is, you could satirize the man.
Oh, there are takes on him.
Yeah, there's stuff. There's stuff there.
Fucking, he was The Onion's best comedic character for 8 years.
That was a thing.
3 other guys have played him well on SNL.
I was just a big fan of the Woody Harrelson one. Big fan is strong because anything political on SNL these days is pretty weak sauce. But like, Woody Harrelson had a take. He had a look. It was kind of funny. Like, that was working for me. I know he's like busy or whatever.
Speaking of Carrey, where does the number 23 fall in? Because that's a fucked up movie.
That's a couple years before this, right?
Right. I think so.
Number 23 is 2007. Like after Eternal Sunshine, he also has a series of unfortunate events the same year. And then he has Fun with Dick and Jane, which is one of those movies I think that had been shot a while ago. Like that one sat on the shelf for a year.
I think it was more that they kept shooting it for over a year. Right, that was a movie that never was finished, and they kept going back for more and more reshoots. Yeah.
But like, so if you basically sort of think of it as like, he kind of takes a 3-year break almost, and then the number 23 comes out, and it's like, what? Like, wait, is he into this? Like, that was the thing. It's a horrible movie. Yeah. Anyway, like it's a stupid, bad movie. But there was also that kind of vibe of like, this feels like something Jim Carrey maybe believes. like that there's some magic to the number 23.
Totally.
Am I misremembering? Is that another Schumacher?
Yes, that's a Schumacher.
You gotta do him. You gotta do Schumacher.
Do we gotta do Schumacher?
I mean, the number 23 though. This was, I just remembered the other thing I wanted to bring up. Because I was looking up photos from the press tour for this movie. One of the photos I had as my background, my virtual background before I shifted it to adult Gary Oldman sitting on adult Jim Carrey's shoulder to do the mocap. But I found this photo of him and Zemeckis. They did some weird Amtrak cross-promotion train tour for this movie. Because I think they were trying to coast off.
Right, big Amtrak tie-in. I don't know why.
Because of Polar Express. But there's this picture for the press conference where he's like vomiting up tinsel or whatever. But Carrey had this look through the entire press tour where his hair was like fairly long. He has a really big beard. And then he would wear a lot of loose layers. Like he would wear like a button-down shirt and then like another jacket and then a blazer and then an overcoat. And it was like very odd how it was a very consistent look, and it was kind of dressed down for how many promotional appearances he had to make for this movie. And then it became clear, he signed on to do the Three Stooges, a thing that I think people forget. He was supposed to be in the Farrelly Brothers' Three Stooges, where it was supposed to be Sean Penn,
Benicio
del Toro as Mo, Sean Penn as Larry, and Jim Carrey as Curly. And it was a big announcement. Like, he's re-teaming with the Farrelly Brothers. Jim Carrey is going to gain 100 pounds to play Curly. And this was the period where he was trying to bulk up. So he started dressing in this way where you couldn't see his body and grew out the beard so you couldn't see his face. And then like a month after this, he goes to the Farrelly Brothers and he's like, I can't do it. I can't gain the weight. I don't look right. And then just loses it all and like shaves.
Right.
And
he
looks
says
normal.
he says he gained 40 pounds and wanted to gain another 40. and realized like he couldn't hack it. Like, whatever. He must have been in his late 40s, early, like it was rough on him. I wouldn't recommend gaining 80 pounds to play Curly in a Three Stooges movie either.
He was pretty good on the Showtime show, Kidding, which is not a great show, but like he was solid in it. Like he still got it.
I kind of hated that show.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He was okay.
Watched it.
I think he was good.
He was good. He was interesting. The weird that show bothered me because he was supposed to be playing a Mr. Rogers type, figure, like a beloved. And Jim Carrey just doesn't have that energy. Like, and especially not in this show that's kind of weird and a little, Showtimey, right? And so but yes, he was compelling, and he is compelling as Dr. Ivo Robotnik in Sonic the Hedgehog. It's not like he doesn't have it's magic to him. Although I will say, in A Christmas Carol, he does not, because
I'm
the
looking
CGI
at
removes it.
I'm looking at the last decade in particular, right? And I would wager that his best performance of the 2010s was as Leap Dave Williams in 30 Rock.
He's fantastic.
I forgot about that.
I have like immense nostalgia for the high concept Jim Carrey comedy, even though I haven't seen all of them.
Me too.
I just if he came out and he was like, I'm doing a movie where I have a guy who has Tourette's syndrome, but for compliments, like I'd be like, yes, I'm there. Right. I'm there.
Right. I'm a guy who fucked a dog and I became a cat. Like I would say that 4 times.
But, they would do that though with because that's kind of what Mr. Popper's Penguins is, and you're like, shit, this sucks now. But like, I threw on Liar Liar recently, or whatever. I stumbled on it, and when Jim Carrey when he can't lie, it's great. Liar Liar rules. There is a solid hour of like marriage dramedy stuff in it that you're just kind of like, okay, Jesus, let's keep it moving. He has a kid, he has more tyranny, like there's all kinds of. But when he can't lie, that's great, and maybe he should do Liar Liar too. I don't know. He can't lie.
Liar Liar is like his big. It's his crossover from the comedy audience to like the broader audience, where you could imagine him have gotten an Oscar nomination for that somehow. It wouldn't have happened, but like, you could see it. And then like he's supposed to become Hanks in other ways, and there's just something about his personality that won't fill that space. There's something off-putting about him. Yeah,
he's creepy.
Right. I think it is whatever that manic, chaotic strain he has is that makes him engaging as a comedic performer. It makes it hard to accept him as an everyman. And Truman Show is such a weird take on the idea of him being an everyman figure, because he's like a bottled, sort of like a bespoke everyman created in a social experiment. And then Eternal Sunshine is a guy who's like sapped of personality. Like he's like pointedly playing an incredibly boring, emotionally inexpressive man in that movie.
Okay. All right. Hello. Click. Hello.
Oh, hello.
Hello. Who's this?
Why, who isn't this?
It's a very, very confounding answer to a very normal question. Who is this?
It is I, Augustus T. Magic, of course.
Augustus T. Magic.
Yes.
Okay. And I can't say I know you. What's your whole vibe?
I'm a magician dietitian.
You're a magician dietitian called Augustus T. Magic.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
You don't need to do the work. You don't need to actually learn any better habits in order to gain weight. Why don't you write down a magic number for me? David, write down a magic number on a piece of paper.
Okay. All right. I'll do that.
A magic number of the weight you want to be.
Sure. Okay. I get that.
Okay, now hold it up to the camera.
Oh, I don't. All right. Right. You can totally see the number that's written on here.
Very interesting. David 2041, am I right?
Sure.
Okay, let me give this a shot. Magic. Oh, I guess that didn't work. No, I guess I'm realizing there aren't any shortcuts.
Oh yeah, no. You see, this is the thing. I look, Augustus T. Magic, perhaps the most unusual person who's ever appeared on this podcast.
Hi, Pradeep.
I thought you were coming in here. You're gonna have some cool formula, but getting in shape.
I thought so too, but it turns out I guess you just have to do the work in order to get in better shape, right?
Right, exactly. You know, it's not about some magic number on the scale. It's about building healthier habits. It's about feeling better about yourself. Like, yeah, you might want to fit into your favorite pair of jeans, or, you know, look good in a certain outfit, feel more confident. But every person is different. There's lots of reasons to want to practice self-care, and the best way to adjust your lifestyle is to use a service like Noom, which is going to teach you the psychology behind the decisions you make, help you keep track of everything, workout steps, diet, you know, all that stuff.
Wow.
And assign you some personally assigned goal specialists in a community of other Noomers. Like, you got a cool name, you've got a cool vibe, you talk funny, you know, you got like a top hat on, you've got, you know, it's really exciting, but it's just, I gotta be honest with you, it's just not going to work when it comes to, you know, just feeling healthier.
No,
I don't mean to diss your whole thing.
No,
It's
no,
just.
no, look, I think first of all, the service I was offering was faulty, right? But second of all, you're making me realize I don't feel that great about myself. I mean, you're listing some of my best attributes, but still I could learn some better habits as well. Perhaps not only is Noom a competitor for the service that I was trying to offer, but Noom could be a valuable resource in my personal life.
Sure, that's true. I mean, look, maybe you want to feel confident in clothing. Maybe you want more energy, better glow, right? Maybe like you say, your social life. You want to adjust that, understand your thought patterns better, have some, you know, less stress or anxiety. Maybe you just want to log your food and get some recipes, or maybe you want to learn about the psychology of your habits. Noom can do all of these things. It works with your lifestyle. Yes. All right, now listen. Noom is a habit-changing solution. It's going to help users learn to develop a new relationship with food through personalized courses. It's based in psychology, teaches you why you do the things you do, and empowers you with the tools you need to break bad habits and replace them with better ones. And it's not a diet. It's just a healthy, easy to stick to way of life. Okay? That's all it is. It's just a couple you just have to use it like 10 minutes a day. It's really easy. You chat with your goal specialist, you chat with your community, you see how you're living your life, and you see what you want to change. It's a very useful app.
Oh, well, thank you very much for giving me this resource, David.
Well, okay. Before you go, you don't have to change it all in one day. Small steps make big progress, but you can sign up for your trial today at Noom, Noom.com/check. What do you have to lose? Visit Noom.com/check. Start your trial today. That's Noom.com/check.
Can I point out, I like him a lot, and I love you, Philip Morris.
Yeah, I never saw that. People like
yeah.
that movie, right? Yeah.
I like that movie. I think he's very good in it. That felt like that was maybe, you know, a glimpse into where he could go for the next decade, and then he didn't really tap into that potential at all. In terms of straight comedy, I think the best one is Burt Wonderstone. Not as a movie, but he's good in that.
I also have not seen that movie because it is against the law to see that movie.
It is. I served my time. Time.
That movie it is illegal to see this movie buzz and box office. That's the only way to explain it. There are federal laws in place.
One of my things, like David will understand this. I spent a lot of time thinking about movies that people could make, because we used to take part in like a weird online game where that would be like a thing.
Fantasy casting.
And one of my dreams is Paul Thomas Anderson making a movie about a week in the life of the Lawrence Welk Show, because that show was so like fucked up behind the scenes. And I was like, but who do you have play Welk? Jim Carrey would make a good Lawrence Welk. Anyway, that's a very strange reference that people will be excited to hear.
Well, but
Jim
Emily,
Carrey's Lawrence Welk.
Great pitch. Put it on the blank check picture slate, along with Keeping Up with the Clauses, which is now the first project under blank check television. But
of course,
that reminds me, the other thing we're not talking about was that for so long there was the looming specter of the Christopher Nolan, Jim Carrey, Howard Hughes movie.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I wonder what that is. I wonder what that looks like. I'm kind of glad that never happened.
I'm kind of glad it never happened, but in a certain way, Howard Hughes is a good fit for Carrey.
Yeah.
100%. Yes. Creepy, reclusive, strange, intense.
Right.
It's just that we've done a lot of Howard Hughes at this point. But yes, no, in theory, that's an interesting project. When was that supposed to? I guess it was like
at several points in time.
Right. But late 2000s, especially the right. That's sort of coming together. Yeah.
Well, almost happened early 2000s. Aviator got to the runway first. Then he almost revived it. And then people's thought is that like he kind of just put a lot of that stuff into Dark Knight Rises. Weirdly. He like cannibalized his Howard Hughes script into the third Batman movie.
I've been thinking a lot about how Will Ferrell's kind of at this point where he is sort of where Bill Murray was pre-Rushmore. And like he needs to, like an indie filmmaker, like I saw somebody suggest on Twitter that Ari Aster would have a great time working with Will Ferrell. And like, I would love to see that. Like, I think like people kept thinking that was going to happen with Jim Carrey. He was going to hook up with an exciting young indie filmmaker, revitalize his career, go to supporting, and he just never did. Like Eternal Sunshine's the closest he got.
Yeah, I mean, then there's things like him being in like The Bad Batch. Mm-hmm. You know,
he's kind of fun in The Bad Batch. That movie stinks.
Right, and then he did that weird fucking movie, Dark Crimes.
Have not seen Dark Crimes.
It takes a dark mind to solve a twisted crime is the tagline.
What if there were dark crimes? I mean, they dared ask the question.
But I think it is harder to crystallize what his persona is that you can subvert into a more serious-minded movie, Emily, in the way that it was like so clear what, like, if you take the Bill Murray thing and you put him in a more serious context, the overwhelming loneliness of this guy becomes very poignant, you know? And I think Ferrell has those reserves in him that no one's really figured out how to properly use yet. Carrey is like best when he's doing sort of just maximalism. When like what you're watching him for is just doing everything. It's one of the reasons why this movie is so upsetting, because it's the one time that he's seemingly holding back.
Yeah,
when there should be nothing keeping him in place. I want to hear your sort of big Zemeckis take.
Before we play the box office game, right? I feel like we just need to hear this and then talk it out.
I was thinking about this because when we were talking about the Rich Little Christmas Carol, I was like, well, why didn't, at this point in time, why not just get Robin Williams, have him play every part, have him do like a celebrity impression for every part, and it would just be like a disaster, but it would be more fun than this movie.
Maybe like W.C. Fields as Scrooge. I'll just throw that out there. No one's ever done that.
Watching this movie, I was struck by Zemeckis' adaptation choices to play up at every turn the anti-capitalism message of A Christmas Carol in a way that usually does not get pulled into American adaptations of this story. It's usually like Scrooge just needs to be nicer and give more to charity.
Right. He's too mean.
Yeah. Zemeckis is, I think watching it at this moment in history, I was like, oh my God, this is like playing up the aspects of Dickens' story that are like, you know what, we are only as good as the weakest people in society, and we should work together to build something that doesn't give too many people too much money and doesn't give too many people too little money. And the stuff that Zemeckis keeps from the book, because he cuts quite a few things for all the hype that this got about, this is a faithful adaptation. The stuff he keeps is all stuff like wanton ignorance. It's all stuff like, really playing up how Scrooge has lots of money and other people have no money, and the orphans and the collecting for the poor and all of this stuff. And that made me think one of the things that has followed Robert Zemeckis around his entire career is he fundamentally a conservative filmmaker in the political sense, or is he someone who's kind of satirizing that viewpoint, taking the piss out of that?
The Gump question.
I think A Christmas Carol proves that he is indeed fairly, I don't think he's like as far left as like a George Lucas, but I think he's a fairly left-leaning filmmaker who really does kind of hate the capitalist system that has made him rich.
It is a thing I have been wrestling with these many months and the months ahead of us, where like,
it's not months ahead, it's month.
This month ahead of us. But I was watching his early short films are on like the Criterion disc for I Want to Hold Your Hand, and they're the films that he showed to Spielberg that got Spielberg on board being his mentor, setting him up with films. And the whole thing he liked about him was he was like, this guy is anarchic. Like he makes these really radical, angry, political comedies. He just likes chaos. And it does feel like there's a much clearer satirical edge to his movies early on that starts to fade away. And I think he starts to get pegged as being this very kind of like sappy populist, sort of like sentimental mainstream guy. But he is clearly a very angry filmmaker. Like most of his movies seem driven by contempt of something and then perhaps regret about where that anger led, you know? But they all have that sort of thing to it. And we talk a lot about him being like kind of the ultimate boomer filmmaker. But he also seems to be a guy who has a lot of hatred for everything the boomers wrought in society.
Yeah,
yes.
I mean, not to relitigate Forrest Gump, but that's that movie. That movie is about I am a boomer. I love boomers. I fucking hate myself. I hate everything that I've done.
Right.
You know,
that's the conflict that makes that movie kind of difficult to untangle.
Yeah.
Right. And like I found this quote that I read in the Contact episode about how he was raised super Catholic and then became super atheistic, and then has spent like the later years trying to sort of untangle his earlier rebellion and find some sort of middle ground between the two. And he also falls in this category. I mean, it's like two narratives that come up a lot on this podcast because of the kind of careers that we cover. One is filmmaker discovers some kind of technological breakthrough and becomes obsessed with pushing this boulder up a hill, quote unquote, for the next generation of filmmakers, right? This weird sort of like, in the same way that Ang Lee has done with the high frame rate stuff, Zemeckis at this time was always framing it as like, I don't care if people don't like these movies. I'm doing this for the next generation of filmmakers. I'm doing all the R&D for the next generation to have these tools to play with. There's that thing. And then there's also the thing of, I hate what all the film trends I started have wrought in culture.
Very much so. Right.
Like he seems to have
that grumpiness.
Yes. Right. You know, Spielberg and Lucas, you know, all these guys where they're just like, ugh, look at all these movies now. They're all bullshit.
Right.
It's an odd choice in that way to make a Christmas Carol that is, at this point in time in his career, to make a Christmas Carol that is so devoid of joy, of humor, and is trying its hardest, if unsuccessfully, to forefront the sort of regret and the literal horror of the story.
Right, but if you view this as Robert Zemeckis being like, I am Scrooge and I ruined the world, like I think that is, I think that that's a take. You know, I think that he is really tapped into this idea of like, we need to like build something better. And like this movie becomes like kind of his Waterloo in that regard. And then he goes off and starts making like weird little kind of personal, kind of not movies. And, you know, and Welcome to Marwen ends with Steve Carell turning to camera and saying, eat the rich. Like, you know, it's the
Marwen's crazy.
This movie is just so fucking boring. My final thought, I'll say, is like Tintin comes 2 years after this, is the final gasp. I've said this before, but like I think so much of the success of Tintin is they find the exact right distance to push it into abstraction. So they overcome the uncanny valley by being like, these are proportions that no human being has. This is not what the architecture of a face looks like. We're still going for a tactile quality in the animation and a realism in the performances, but we're not trying to replicate the way these actors' faces look in that kind of way. And they go a little bit into that with like, I mean, obviously the stretching out of Carrey's limbs in this and his nose and his chin. But even like you look at the Ghosts of Christmas Past and it's just straight up Jim Carrey's face in a flame, right? You look at the Ghost of Christmas Present and it's straight up just like, it looks like Jim Carrey doing the promotional rounds for this movie trying to bulk up to play Curly. And then the Ghost of Christmas to Come is just apparently him motion capture performancing the silhouette of a robe pointing at shit. But there's that...
He point.
There's the opening transition of the movie, I guess after the opening credits, Zemeckis flying over the cityscape shit, where it goes from the book, or does that come first? Where it goes from the book
You look at the book, and then it goes into the city, and then it says Jim Carrey over footage of him wandering around.
But there's that transition where it goes from the illustration in the page of the book.
Yes,
it
I had
says
this
like
thought too, Griffin.
Right. And then the illustration becomes 3D, and then slowly the illustration transitions into this totally horrifying looking Bob Marley corpse.
Yes.
Jacob Marley. What am I saying? Bob Marley. I wish Bob Marley was in this movie. I wish that had been his choice. I'm doing A Christmas Carol, but the ghost of Bob Marley is playing every character. I bought the rights from the Marley estate. But I had this immediate thought of just like, oh, that was immediately more visually appealing than anything I've seen in any of these mocap movies. He was so weirdly committed to trying to bridge this gap between like, it's not animation, it's not live action, it has the qualities of both. That I just thought like, look, it's not going to fix the energy problems this movie has. But if this movie were done with like 3-dimensional illustrations in that way.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yes, I agree with this completely.
It would have some fucking feeling to it. You're like what you were saying about the Richard Williams version being the best one. It's like, make it look like the fucking woodcuts from the book or something.
Yeah, and that apparently was like their goal, which this looks nothing like. But yeah, it's I have seen so many Christmas Carol adaptations. I've seen so many that are worse than this one by several degrees. This is the one I least want to watch again. Like, it's so... Also, when Bob Cratchit turns toward camera at end and starts talking to it and reciting the famous end of the book, it's terrifying. It's terrifying.
The whole thing sucks. Speed round some other things that suck. The entire Ghost of Christmas Present sequence happens from one room. He just turns the floor into like a viewfinder so that they can look at other things happening. Like it's some weird theme park ride. The Fezziwig sequence, which he turns into hot chocolate, and the main money shot of it is a woman twirling too hard and briefly becoming a helicopter through her skirt.
Yeah. The one thing that I think really does succeed in capturing the book, again, is Tiny Scrooge. I'm glad it's in there, and I'm glad that Dickens' vision was realized.
Finally, just dancing on top of that bottle.
Little Scrooge.
It's always funny when the high pitch, the pitch up. It's always good.
David pointed out that this is one of his only sole screenwriting credits. And I was like, yeah, but it's like he pretty much just copy-pasted the book and then added in long screen descriptions of when he shoehorned in chase sequences that must have ended with, I promise you this is going to look really cool.
Yes, exactly. Well, then also, I guess, Marley, chain legend, I guess we should just shout that out.
Oh, yeah. The chain work is pretty good. You know, they're green. That's cool. They're translucent. Dickens really invented something pretty magical, which is that ghosts carry around chains. And, I've taken that and incorporated it into my fashion. So, I'll have wearable chains with my line that's coming out next year. So look forward to that.
Do you look forward to being a ghost because they'll just like give you some chains?
Absolutely. Yeah. I assume that you go and you get your chains and then they assign you a place to haunt.
Yeah. St. Peter's like, how many chains, Mr. Hosley? And you're like, all of them.
It's like checking in on election day. You go to the little desk and they're like, Hosley with an S or a Z. You go S and they go, great. Here are your chains.
We have to play the box office game. This is one of the crazier box office games that I can remember. It's three movies where you're just like, holy shit. Number one, though, this is November 6, 2009. Number one is A Christmas Carol, opening to $30 million. Not great. Not okay. Great. What are you going to do? It
ends up at 130.
It ends up making 137 domestic, 177 international, 315 worldwide. Okay, but maybe.
But it costs like $200 million.
Yeah, and it costs a ton to market. And Polar Express made more than that, 5 years earlier. So like that's just not what you want to see in any.
And this thing has certainly had zero shelf life.
Zero. That's the other thing that it does not linger, does not become a classic. All right. Number two, though. Okay. Concert movie has made $57 million.
Michael Jackson's This Is It?
Michael Jackson's This Is It. Who could forget
Holy
that Michael
shit.
Jackson had recently died when this movie came out? And so they rushed This Is It. It's not even a concert movie, right? It's like a preparing for a concert movie, right?
It is. It's not even a documentary. It's like it's got the shape of a concert film, but it's put together from footage of him rehearsing a concert he never got to do because he died.
So weird. I've never seen. Huge hit.
So strange.
$260 million worldwide.
Is it
the whole
Is
Michael
it the biggest
Jackson,
concert movie of all time?
It might be.
Probably. Like, what would its
it's so
competition
big.
be?
I just remember there being like Sony bought it for so much money, and Deadline was doing these breathless pieces where they were like, no one knows how much this is going to make. Is it going to make $500 million? Like, there was just this feeling of like, and then people saw it and they were like, oh, it's really just watching rehearsal footage. Like, it's very unexciting. There's a part where, because I'm such a big Jackson 5 fan, and there's a part where he goes into doing a medley of all the Jackson 5 songs. I start getting so amped. And like 30 seconds into it, he goes like, hey, can we stop? I'm just like out of breath. And you're like, oh, well, this sucks because I didn't see the thing I wanted to see. And also this is more depressing now.
Yes.
Go ahead. I was just going to say my primary memory of Michael Jackson's death is that he died while I was visiting my old German grandmother, and we went out to watch fireworks on the 4th of July, and people were playing Michael Jackson songs, and I was not aware that my German grandmother knew about Michael Jackson's death, but she turned to me and said, he's dead now. Very sad. And then she went back and got in the car because she didn't care about watching fireworks.
Wow.
So,
I mean, no lies detected. He was dead.
it's true.
I was in Paris when Michael Jackson died, and there were literally just people running down the streets holding bottles of wine and beer, screaming, Michael Jackson, il est mort! Il est mort! I remember like all night as I went to different neighborhoods. It was a constant throughout the city.
Number 3 at the box office. It's new this week. It's opening to $12 million.
Michael Jackson, no good, very bad, don't do it.
Sure, yes. How to describe, I guess like a dark comedy?
Dark
one of those
comedy
movies
opened
that-
to 12. No.
I feel like just saying the title is just a great movie that does not exist. Like, you know, it's a great like filler title for any movie that does not exist.
Huh.
Big cast.
Big cast. It's not holiday themed at all, is it?
No, it's not holiday themed. It has a funny billing where there's someone's getting the and credit, but it's not an actor.
Oh.
Someone is getting the and credit, but it's not an actor? I'm
Not an
already
actor.
laughing.
Not an actor. It's like actor, and
A doc?
You're close.
Okay, so is the and the name of a proper character, or is it like a thing?
It's an animal. It's an animal.
It's an animal. And is the movie kind of like centered around the animal?
Well, no, but like it's in the title. This animal is in the title.
Animal's in the title.
I've never seen this movie. And I love the star of it. I love most of it. I love a lot of the actors in this movie. One canceled actor in this movie, but a lot of good actors.
I almost find it unlikely that I haven't seen this movie. So is this
I don't know that you've seen this movie.
Is this
Is the canceled actor Kevin Spacey?
The canceled actor is Kevin Spacey.
Huh. It's a Kevin Spacey dark comedy.
He's fourth billed.
Yeah. It's got
Right
an animal.
ahead of the animal.
It's not 9 lives. He's billed one position ahead of an animal.
Was he in an Air Bud?
Yeah, it's an air, but no, come on. It's a serious movie. It debuted at the Venice Film Festival. It's got huge stars in it. It does not exist. It cannot exist. I saw
It's
this trailer like
serious?
50 times. No, it's like a comedy, but it's like a dark satirical comedy for grown-ups.
Wow. Spacey, an animal. Can you give me the animal kingdom it's part of?
It's a hooved animal. I don't know.
It's a horse movie?
No, it's not a horse
Is
movie.
Is it a cow movie?
Horse movie.
Not a cow, not a horse, but another farm animal.
Sheep.
Now this is getting fun. Now this is just an animal guessing game. No, it's not a sheep.
It's not
Is it a pig?
moose.
Is it a pig?
Wait.
Mooses
Did I
are
hear
enough.
goat?
Oh, pig.
Did I hear
Pig.
goat?
Goat? Oh,
Oh.
Is this the men who stare at goats?
The men who stare at goats. No
wait.
goats,
Shit.
no glory.
It's Clooney, Bridges. Who's the one person I'm forgetting? Spacey
Ewan
and
McGregor,
a
Ewan
goat.
McGregor, Kevin Spacey, and goat in The Men Who Stare at Goats, a Grant Heslov film.
You're right. That movie cannot exist.
I met Grant Heslov once. Seemed like a really nice guy.
Yep.
Obviously, George Clooney's writing partner.
when that movie was out, I doubted it existed.
Yes, right.
Yeah.
It's I guess an anti-war comedy about CIA or like U.S. Army like psychological experiments, right? Where they're like trying to make psychic spies. I've never seen it. I only remember the trailer, and it's like a guy running into a wall or whatever, right? Like it's like shit like that. I have no idea what it's about.
I mean, people, Truman Show syndrome is a serious thing. I feel like there have been psychological studies of generations of people post-Truman Show grow up with the fear that their life is actually just some fictional reality for someone else to watch. And I felt that way anytime I walked by a Men Who Stare at Goats poster on the street. Because it was like, this is lazy set dressing for a movie that cannot come up with a fake movie to exist in its universe.
The Men Who Stare at Goats. They stare. All right.
The goats above
That's
the
enough talk.
title. Okay.
The fourth movie is a sci-fi horror film.
Sci-fi horror film, 2009.
Yes.
Would you say more sci-fi, more horror?
More sci-fi? Just one of those cheap-ass sci-fi horror movies that probably made a profit no one ever remembers.
It's not the Dennis Quaid, Ben Foster one, is it?
No. I believe, what's that called? Elysium? No, wait.
No, but it's something like Elysium.
It's not Elysium. That's the Matt Damon thing. What the fuck is it?
Right.
It doesn't matter. Anyway, no, it's not that. It's just a cheap-ass horror movie. It stars Mila Jovovich.
Oh, fuck.
It's got a cutesy sci-fi name.
Yeah.
It's like a play on a concept we would be dimly aware of as a sci-fi concept.
And it's not ultraviolet.
No. This is going to be tough. You guys are not going to get this.
No, I think I gotta. I feel like I'm usually good at my Milas.
You got it. You're going to tap out?
Do you have a guess, Emily? You looked like you almost had a thought.
I remember the poster for this movie, but I do not remember the title.
Describe the
Like,
poster
the
to me.
poster.
Emily, give me the poster.
Oh my god. It's fuck. It's maybe I don't remember the poster. I think I'm remembering a Resident Evil poster. Shit.
Mila
yeah, it's
Jovovich
Mila-
not on the poster, to be clear.
Oh, she's not. Okay, well, there we go. Then I
The
remember
poster
remembering him.
is someone being lifted out of their bed as if by an alien force.
Oh! It's not. Is it called The Fourth Kind?
The fourth kind. The fourth kind. What if
Right,
there was a fourth kind?
It's an alien abduction movie, right?
I believe
second-
so.
Yeah, the second you said being lifted out, I was like, okay, yeah, that's
I
either
think-
the fourth kind or that one from like a few years later with Carrie Russell that I don't remember the name of anymore. Dark Skies?
Dark Skies.
Dark Skies. I think because a close encounter of the third kind is where you meet an alien, but a close encounter of the fourth time is where an alien abducts you.
From your bed.
Anyway, from your bed when you're sleeping.
You remember that found footage movie set on the moon? What the fuck was that?
What?
Emily,
Sorry?
What's that movie called? Apollo. What's the found footage?
Apollo
Apollo
18, I believe.
Yeah.
It's a later. Yes, right. Yes, Apollo 18. Yeah. What if we went to the moon and there was
A camera.
alien? Okay. Speaking of found footage movies, what is number 5 at the box office? It's made $97 million in 7 weeks.
Paranormal Activity.
A little film called Paranormal Activity that rules. Love
The first
Paranormal Activity.
Yeah.
1 is so good. 2 is okay. 3 is the best. Never saw the other ones.
I've only seen 1 and 3, but I agree that 3 rules.
3 is so good.
3's amazing. Yeah.
Yeah. 3 rules. I should watch the other ones. Why not? That is the box office for this time. We've also got opening at number 6, one of my favorite movies of 2009, Richard Kelly's The Box, which we will one day do on this podcast, which I love so much. You got Couples Retreat. What if there was a couples retreat? You got Law Abiding Citizen. What if there was a Law Abiding Citizen?
But like both of those big hits, like Couples Retreat. Vince Vaughn just snoozing his way to $100 million domestic.
God, it's true. Vince Vaughn is like he's like resentful that he's in that movie. It's so weird.
Yeah, you fuckers like this? Is this what you want? Yeah,
right.
It feels like a parody of an Adam Sandler premise.
Right. It's like we gotta go to Hawaii. Why? For some kind of like couples retreat.
Yeah. I don't know. My hot wife hates me or something.
I like that. I like Vince Vaughn has found his Wes Anderson, and it's S. Craig Zoller. Like that's that's.
I gotta say, Vaughn pretty good in Freaky. I gave him a good review for Freaky. Gave him good notices.
He's been doing good work. He's good in Hacksaw Ridge. He's good in Fighting with My Family. He's leaning into the right things right now.
Oh, the thing about Freaky is he's funny in it, obviously, because he's playing a teenage girl for most of the movie, right? Like it's a body swap movie, but he plays a serial killer, and you're like, yeah, Vince Vaughn, of course. Like that's good casting. He's creepy and scary. And then like when he's being funny, you're like, oh right, I forgot that he was like a comedy star for 15 years. Right, I forgot that he has that muscle. Right,
A-list comedy star. Yeah. What a weird career. But you want to talk about a great career? Emily Vanderwerff, one of the best writers out there, one of our best guests, one of our favorite people.
I want to ask you, because you're never going to do A Christmas Carol again, because no other great directors have done A Christmas Carol.
I think so. Right.
Who's your director you'd like to see do Christmas Carol? Just lightning round, because I have an answer. I have just to make Griffin happy. So,
well, got to hear the answer to make Griffin happy. Who do I want to do A Christmas Carol?
That's a good question. I mean, I didn't watch the FX dark Scrooge Who Fucks. Yeah. Right, but I am into the idea of someone doing a harder edged Christmas Carol like that. Not an edgelord Christmas Carol, but like the thing this movie occasionally toys with of just like, what if you made it really fucking dark?
You know, I don't want anyone to do it, but yeah, like it'd be fun if like Mike Flanagan did a ghost story movie. You know what I mean? Like if someone leaned more into the horror. Like,
if you did like a nasty, like $1 million haunted house Scrooge movie.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah. What's your answer, Emily?
Gendy Tartakovsky.
Oh,
well, that would be fun.
Okay, so that's a great pick. My pick was going to be like the first thing that came to mind for me was like Paul King does a big family Scrooge musical.
Right, like Joe Cornish. Like, British guys with a good sense of comedy and visuals. Right. And, yeah.
But I'm also like, I feel like Muppet Christmas Carol scratches that itch for me. It's a great Christmas Carol musical with a great performance at the center and a lot of good comedy. I like the idea of Gendy just going fucking full tune on this thing.
Yeah.
And he's a guy.
In it?
Blobby? Yeah.
Bring in Blobby?
Blobby could be the ghost of Christmas future.
The thing about this is there's all these franchises that are like, we're going to do Christmas Carol because we got these recognizable characters. Hotel Transylvania Christmas Carol would work.
Emily, that's such a good idea. That's such a good idea. Drac is kind of a Scrooge sometimes.
Yeah, an HT4. I mean, if you're going to keep it going, you might as well just start being like, I don't know, we'll do a Christmas Carol. Yeah, I don't know, we'll do what's another like template you could shove it into? Yeah, that
Hotel Transylvania Treasure Island. Yeah, just do them all.
Just make them the new Muppets. Great,
Emily,
great
is there anything specific you want to plug aside from the fact that people should just be following all of your work in general because it's always worth following?
You can find me. Yeah, you can find me on Twitter at twitter.com/EmilyVDW. I am on Vox all the time. My newsletter is called Episodes. And as you listen to this, the penultimate episode of the second season of my scripted fiction podcast, Arden, is dropping tomorrow. Hey. So check that out. We have gotten awards nominations. That means we're good.
Highly recommended. Right. And not to be competitive, but I want you to remember how this episode started and recognize that we might be nipping at your heels in the awards categories next year.
Peabody's coming.
I remember.
I've got my comedy points coin. I'm going to have a Peabody medal.
Wow, can you imagine? Oh, I've noted it. I wrote down apply for Peabody. But guys, I queued this up in the Polar Express episode. I gotta promote
of course.
the
Emily, you
Untitled
don't know
Slow
about this
Christmas
yet.
album that I've put together.
It's a slow Christmas album.
Ben thinks that Christmas music isn't slow enough, so he's releasing an album. This is for real. That's going to drop this week as you're listening to this.
The link will be in the show notes. Please, it's free for everyone to listen and enjoy.
I just can't believe that's real.
It was the best Christmas
good.
music I've ever heard, Ben. You've created a holiday classic.
Thank you, Emily. I really appreciate it. As someone who loves Christmas, that I take that in high regard.
This thing's going to be huge. I'm just saying.
It's gonna
get much bigger than our podcast.
Right.
It's gonna be like the Buster Poindexter to our New York Dolls.
All right.
great reference,
Take us
Griff.
out.
I love it. Yeah, let's end it.
Thank you all for listening. Please remember to review, subscribe. Joe Bun Pay Rounds for our claim record for our theme song. Go to blankets.red.com for some real nerdy shit. Go to patreon.com/blankcheck where we're finishing off the Alien franchise, Blank Check special features. Tune in next week for Flight. We're going to roll it. And as always, on the 12th day of Christmas, my true love sent to me 12 podcast potting, 11 potters pipe potting, 10 Lord pods of potting, 9
Pods.
potties potting, 8 pods of potting, 7 pods of potting, 6 pods of potting. Come on, sing it with me now. 5
podcasts.
4 potting
Podcasts.
3
Podcasts.
2
Podcast doves.
and podcast in
Pod.
That's a Peabody winner.